I'm the most notorious shrew in all the surrounding villages. Chen Shiqing is famously the kindest soul for miles around, and yet, of all people, we ended up as husband and wife. Anyone would say we're a complete mismatch. Later, with the advent of the reform and opening up, Chen Shiqing was reunited with his biological parents and reverted to his original surname, Gu. The Gu family would not accept a daughter-in-law of poor character, so Gu Shiqing divorced me. I was left in the countryside, wasting away from illness and left to fend for myself. In the city, he married an educated youth who had once lodged in our home years before. From that moment on, Chen Manqing and Gu Shiqing were finished for good, but thankfully, by some mercy from heaven, I was given a second chance at life. The sun blazed down, turning the world into a giant steamer that tormented every living soul. I walked away from the production brigade with a light, brisk step. As I passed the village entrance, I saw Chen Shiqing mustering with the others. It was a sweltering day. Everyone else was in short sleeves or vests, but he was wearing a faded blue long-sleeved jacket. It wasn't that he didn't feel the heat, it was just that the vest underneath was patched in several places. That faded jacket was the only presentable piece of clothing he owned. The reason he's so particular about his appearance today is that he got word. The educated youths assigned to our production brigade have arrived ahead of schedule. Our village is organized as a production brigade, which oversees 3 production teams. As the deputy leader of the second team, he was suddenly told to join people from the other 2 teams and go into town to meet the educated youths, even though everyone's clothes were equally worn and shabby. Chen Shiqing's upright posture made him stand out from the crowd. He saw me, exchanged a quick greeting with someone else, then walked over with an especially gentle smile. Manqing, when I go to town this time, I'll buy you some White Rabbit creamy candy. Buying candy required both money and ration coupons, and either one was precious. White Rabbit candy was even more expensive, costing over 2 yuan for half a kilogram. As the deputy team leader, Chen Shiqing earned a maximum of 11 work points a day, which translated to a mere 30 to 50 cents in his pocket. Hearing this, the young men nearby couldn't help but tease him. Chen Shiqing, if you've got any money left, you should buy yourself some new clothes. Let those educated youths see what a fine young man our village has to offer. It has to be said, Chen Shiqing's face was certainly his best feature. That's why I've been cutting him slack, time and again. Some people even said to me, Manqing, Shiqing's been stashing away a secret fund behind your back, and you're not even investigating. He needs a good talking to. A secret fund, what a loaded term. Chen Shiqing is my parents' adopted son, and we grew up together. Everyone in the village just assumed we would get married someday, so they also took our ambiguous closeness for granted. I wasn't about to handle it the same way as in my past life, with a bashful smile to brush it off. I glared at those people and said angrily, if any of you keep spreading nonsense and ruin my brother's chances of finding a wife, I'll report you to the brigade leader and the party secretary. You'll see, I wasn't married to Chen Shiqing yet, and I hadn't earned my reputation as a shrew, so, my words carried no real weight, but it was enough. I just needed to draw a clear line between Chen Shiqing and me. Those people weren't intimidated in the least. It was Chen Shiqing who got flustered. He explained to me anxiously, Manqing, don't listen to them. All my money is yours to manage. Please don't be angry with me. Okay. The caution and eagerness to please in his words made my heart ache. I'm not angry. Don't waste money on candy, and be careful on your way. I gave Chen Shiqing a reassuring smile. Chen Shiqing finally relaxed and smiled back at me. He had no idea. That smile belonged to the Chen Shiqing who hadn't yet met He Shuilian. It was a smile I would never see again. The old Chen Shiqing, indebted to my parents, had truly taken good care of me. He gave me every last penny he earned from his work points. Once, I stained my pants during my period, and he was the one who went to the river to wash my clothes. Because of that, the village started gossiping about how spoiled I was, but that was the only time, since he rarely did any housework. On the rare occasion he did, people saw him as a remarkably good man. In my past life, it was also at the village entrance. Chen Shiqing said he would bring me White Rabbit creamy candy. I smiled and said okay, then I waited for his return, my heart full of anticipation. In the end, he gave all the sugar to He Shuilian, a female educated youth suffering from low blood sugar. Chen Shiqing even borrowed money to buy He Shuilian 2 pairs of rubber shoes, replacing her delicate leather shoes, a symbol of a capitalist's daughter. So she wouldn't be criticized by the production brigade. Helping others is never wrong. Our parents have always taught us to learn from the spirit of Lei Feng, but then, he let He Shuilian move into our home, which was a complete and utter slap in my face. Chen Shiqing was a neat freak, so I made sure the house was always spotless. I even cleaned the pigsty every single day. Back then, running water wasn't common, and a poor village like ours certainly didn't have it. Every household in the village had to fetch their water from an old well in the village center. Even though it was just the two of us, Shiqing Chen and I, we ended up hauling more water each day than a family of 6. I had to go before dawn, while it was still dark, to avoid the morning rush. If I was late and Shiqing Chen had to wait, he'd get impatient. The arrival of the educated youth was sudden, right in the middle of the busy farming season. The production brigade had no choice but to clear out the old communal dining hall to serve as their temporary dormitory, but the place was small, so it could only accommodate some of us. The rest had to be split up and stay in different homes. After our parents passed away, a room in our house became vacant. Chen Shiqing and I left that room untouched, keeping it exactly as it was. Cleaning it every day gave us the illusion that our parents were still there. In my past life, when Chen Shiqing went to town to pick up the educated youth, the production brigade's party secretary came to see me. "Manqing, I know this is hard for you, which is why I've kept your parents' house untouched until now. But these educated youth have come to our village to help develop the countryside. We can't leave them with nowhere to stay. After my parents passed away, the people in the village did help us out. Times are hard for everyone, yet you're still willing to lend us a hand. I have no reason to disagree." The one who disagrees is Chen Shiqing. "He's a bit of a neat freak," Chen Shiqing said to me. "Manqing, this is our home. I don't want any outsiders living here." I understood what he meant. He was famously the nice guy in our unit. There was no way he could bring himself to say no. To spare Chen Shiqing the awkwardness, I used my parents, who had sacrificed their lives for the village, as a pretext to secure the room. But in the blink of an eye, Chen Shiqing let He Shulian move in. Everyone got their happy ending, except for me. Everyone thinks Chen Shiqing spoiled me and made me too unreasonable. After that, no matter what happened, the production team always thought I was the one causing trouble. Siding with Chen Shiqing and He Shulian, the very first thing I did after waking up in my new life was to go to the production brigade and volunteer to give up a room for the educated youth to live in. The brigade leader was taken aback. I had been unwilling before, which was why the party secretary later came to have a heart-to-heart talk with me. The secretary asked me why I had changed my mind. I looked down, speaking awkwardly. "My brother is particular about cleanliness. He doesn't want anyone else living here." "But," I said, lifting my head to look at the party secretary, my gaze resolute, "my parents were martyrs. As their child, I shouldn't be selfish." The party secretary praised me. "Manqing, you're a good girl." I shook my head. "I'm not. I shouldn't have abandoned my principles just because of my brother's opinion," the party secretary said. "It's good that you have this awareness. Keep it up and strive to make a good impression." The brigade leader standing nearby asked me, "Did Chen Shiqing really say he didn't want anyone else living in his house?" I pretended to be embarrassed and nodded, then asked them to keep it confidential. "My brother is shy and doesn't know how to refuse, so he asked me to speak for him. Please don't tell him, I'll convince him to agree." The brigade leader's expression immediately darkened. "I know why he's angry." The party secretary saw me out, then went back inside almost immediately. Standing by the corner of the wall, I overheard the brigade leader curse. For crying out loud, on one hand, he asks me to be his party membership sponsor, pledging to serve the party, and on the other, he's playing these underhanded games, obstructing the brigade's work with the educated youth. "Lao Wang, don't be upset. He's not the only educated person in the brigade. Manqing has always been a sensible child. I see she does all the housework, and she's always helping the elderly and widows in the village." "You're right. Manqing got into high school back then, but she gave her spot to Shiqing. If you ask me, Manqing is old Chen and his wife's own daughter. She's the real deal." I didn't listen any further. I just smiled and walked away from the production brigade with a light step. "Manqing, you shouldn't have gone to see the brigade leader and the party secretary without discussing it with me first." Chen Shiqing demanded an answer. He looked at me with disappointment, accustomed to me being the first to back down. In truth, I was the one who was truly disappointed. Whenever he encountered He Shulian, Chen Shiqing lost all sense of himself, consumed by the humiliation-fueled rage of losing face. He failed to notice the two frail young women from the city standing outside the door, with their luggage at their feet. They looked uncertain whether they should enter. I imagine that when he saw He Shulian today, his heart must have ached for this beautiful girl from the city. The image He Shulian projected to the world was one of delicate fragility, possessing a refined, almost aristocratic grace that even other city girls lacked. As for Chen Shiqing, known to everyone as a good-natured soul, he felt a duty to look after such a vulnerable young woman. Then, he would go to the brigade leader and the party secretary, tell them I was being unreasonable, and offered to have the educated youth stay at his house instead. That's exactly what he did in my past life, but this time, I beat him to it. The brigade leader and the secretary surely gave him a cold reception. I gave Chen Shicheng a pitiful look. Brother, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have taken matters into my own hands. But I knew you were a good person. You wouldn't have the heart to see the educated youth with nowhere to stay. That's why you went to the party secretary to arrange for them to live in our house. My words were perfectly reasonable and beyond reproach. He was just too eager to show off, too impatient to paint me as an irresponsible troublemaker in front of the party secretary and the brigade leader, all to highlight his own selfless virtue. But this time, his plan backfired spectacularly. Chen Shicheng gave a helpless smile, putting on his best big brother act. Just make sure you tell me in advance next time you plan to do anything. I gave a quiet ahm-hum in response, then turned toward the doorway with a beaming smile. Are you the educated youth from the city? I've cleaned the room, so you can move right in. I didn't look to see how dark Chen Shicheng's expression had turned. I helped carry their things inside and put them in my parents' room. The two young women from the city offered quiet thanks. I agreed to let the educated youth stay, but I also told the party secretary that since our home is a bit more comfortable, we should only help those who are truly in need. I waved my hand dismissively. You're here to support rural development. We should be the ones thanking you. He Shuilian is the one rotten apple that spoils the whole barrel. Most of the educated youth were down to earth and got things done. Although they weren't used to the grueling farm work at first, they persevered, with some dedicating themselves tirelessly to improving crop yields. I have great admiration for these educated youth, everyone except He Shuilian. I thought that with He Shuilian not living in our house, I'd see her less often. But that wasn't the case. I kept running into He Shuilian in all sorts of ways, and Chen Shicheng was always right there beside her, showering her with attention and concern. Could you talk to the team leader for me? I really don't want to stay in the collective dormitory anymore. The others are all ganging up on me. Actually, it was He Shuilian who was ostracizing the others, especially those two educated youths with poor health whom the team leader had arranged to stay at our house. He Shuilian had a uniquely sickly sweet way of speaking. She had absolutely no work ethic, even though Chen Shicheng abused his authority to assign her the easiest jobs. She was constantly taking time off, slacking on her duties every day, cutting corners, and always making mistakes. If it weren't for the work point recorder doing Chen Shicheng a favor, He Shuilian's work record would be a complete embarrassment. Nobody wanted to be assigned to the same work group as He Shuilian. In my past life, Chen Shicheng, for his own selfish reasons, put me in the same group as He Shuilian. On paper, it was to have me help the educated youth get familiar with farm work, but in reality, it was just to make me do He Shuilian's work for her. He Shuilian's only job is to have a lovely, romantic time with Chen Shicheng. In the end, she even gets to take all the credit for my work, while I'm left holding the bag for her mistakes. This time around, He Shuilian can dream on. I'd rather shovel manure than give He Shuilian a chance to leech off me. And then I actually signed up to shovel manure. I heard Chen Shicheng say sympathetically, Shuilian, I'm sorry you'll have to put up with this a little longer. He Shuilian whined, I'm not staying in someone else's house. It's too filthy. He Shuilian was originally assigned to stay with another team member's family, but she found their home unhygienic and insisted on living in the educated youth dormitory instead. Alright, I'll make sure you can stay with us. A day apart feels like, He Shuilian continued, an eternity, and Xingzhou, holding a manure ladle, and I exchanged bewildered glances. The stench of manure wasn't half as nauseating as their flirting. Once they were out of earshot, and Xingzhou and I dry-heaved in perfect, disgusted unison. Who in their right mind would flirt in front of a latrine? They probably thought no one would be visiting the outhouse at high noon, hence the audacity. Little did I know, and Xingzhou and I were right behind the outhouse, and Xingzhou was the new educated youth. When tasks were assigned, he volunteered for the job of carrying night soil. All the other educated youths were profoundly grateful to him, yet they couldn't help but keep their distance. Without the memories from my past life, I probably would have thought Xingzhou was a weirdo too, and would have listened to Chen Shicheng and kept my distance from him. Chen Shicheng thought Xingzhou was dirty. In reality, Xingzhou was the only one among these educated youths who genuinely wanted to help build up the countryside. His father was a university professor who had been sent down to a cadre school in the neighboring town. Since Xingzhou refused to disavow his father, he was sent to our remote, impoverished village as an educated youth to be re-educated by the poor and lower-middle peasants, given his family background. Even if he hadn't volunteered for the job of carrying night soil, the production brigade would have assigned it to him anyway. It was a widely held belief that to be re-educated, one had to do the hardest, most grueling labor. and Xingzhou was a good man. The austere life as an educated youth did not diminish his determination to serve the people. The National College entrance examinations were reinstated. I heard he continued his studies in a field related to agriculture. I saw him once, later on, at the town's agricultural technology seminar, and Xingzhou made a brief appearance as a representative. The 2-hour technical presentation slot was carved out of his packed schedule. Later, to answer everyone's questions, he stayed for 2 extra days. He left the conference hall, went down to the fields, and earnestly helped solve problems, sacrificing his only chance for a family visit in the process. His love for this land runs deep. I don't actually want to haul manure. I just want to help in Xingzhou, not just because I admire him, but also because, in my past life, he was the only one who ever spoke up for me. Grass cannot rot without soil, and soil cannot be fertile without grass. Our production brigade was dirt poor. We couldn't get our hands on any chemical fertilizer. Fertilizer was more precious than white rabbit candy. People could do without the candy, but the fields couldn't do without the fertilizer. Even if our brigade leader went to the commune every day, pleading poverty and securing an allocation quota, our brigade still couldn't afford to buy the fertilizer. We were just poor, hopelessly, desperately poor. After getting a sense of the village's situation, and Xingzhou began to study compost making, we had previously used our break time to dig a large pit by the field. At first, apart from the party secretary and the brigade leader, no one else knew what we were up to, and Xingzhou said to me, "I've looked around the brigade. Things like river silt, water weeds, and livestock manure are easy enough to gather, but we're still missing one key ingredient." I asked, "What?" "We still need to add lime to the raw materials to stimulate microbial activity." I didn't understand what microbes were, but if Xingzhou said we needed it, then I'd go ask the brigade for it. I had more sway with the production brigade than he did. I nodded. "All right, I'll go talk to the brigade leader. This should be easier to get than chemical fertilizer," and Xingzhou smiled. He had a handsome smile, one that carried the spirited confidence of a scholar, and Xingzhou asked, "Chen Manqing, do you really have that much faith in my success?" "Yes, I simply believe in you. What if it fails? Then we start over," I replied casually, adding, "I'll be right there with you," and Xingzhou was taken aback for a moment, then smiled and said, "It will succeed, Chen Manqing. This composting method has already been tested in the village where my classmate was sent to work." "That's good to hear. I'm off to ask the brigade leader for some lime." I waved him off and turned to leave. "Chen Manqing," and Xingzhou suddenly called out to me. I turned back, looking at him with confusion. "Catch," and Xingzhou tossed something to me. Out of trust, I reached out to catch it before my brain even had time to process. 3 pieces of white rabbit creamy candy. He gave me a reassuring smile, signaling that everything was fine. The candies had softened a bit from the warmth of my pocket, but they were still wonderfully sweet. It was so sweet it left a bitter taste in my heart. "So this is the white rabbit candy Chen Shichen gave to He Shuilian. It's nothing special." My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, but my steps remained resolute as I headed for the production brigade. And Xingzhou needed to make compost, and the pit we dug earlier was for that very purpose. I have already reported this to the production brigade. I am willing to vouch for Xingzhou. The brigade leader and the party secretary support anything that benefits production, which is why they now hold Xingzhou in higher regard. In a past life, Chen Shichen was put off by the smell on Xingzhou and repeatedly ignored his proposals for composting, failing to report them in a timely manner. That year, the harvest was poor. However, in the village where Xingzhou was sent to work, their successful compost making led to a bumper harvest that year. It was even commended by the entire province and became a hot topic of discussion. Our village didn't send anyone to learn the compost making technique until the following year, but in that one year, countless families were brought to ruin by hunger. When a person is hungry, their resistance weakens, making them more susceptible to illness. When a person falls ill, the family can fall apart. I won't let this happen again. I walked along the ridge of the field, heading in the direction of the production team. People began making their way to the fields for work. Several young lads, distracted by looking at me, nearly stumbled into the irrigation ditch. The villagers greeted me warmly. At that moment, I finally felt a sense of rebirth. Far from being the shrew people might imagine, I was actually the celebrated beauty of the entire region. Before I married Chen Shicheng, matchmakers practically wore out our doorstep. Back then, Chen Shicheng would always get jealous and feign some minor illness, forcing me to focus all my attention on him. I originally just saw him as an older brother, a mere year my senior. I was always the one looking after him more. Before he passed, Dad told Mom that since Chen Shicheng had lost his parents and we had taken him in, we absolutely had to take good care of him. Later, when mom was on her deathbed, she gave me the same instruction. No one ever stopped to think about me. I had lost my parents too. That was the spirit of the times, a simple, earnest era where many people were highly principled, often treating adopted children even better than their own. I always gave way to Chen Shiqing, time and again. From the chance to attend high school, to the eligibility to apply for party membership, and even the recommendation for a worker peasant soldier student position. Before He Shuilian came into the picture, everyone just assumed I would marry Chen Shiqing. Even I think so. After all, I gave so much for him. After all, it was Chen Shiqing who confessed his love to me first. Like a blockhead, I was watered and nurtured by him day after day, until finally a flower of joy bloomed. The flowers in the city are so vibrant and alluring, how could anyone find the dull, dusty wildflowers of the countryside interesting? Out of a sense of obligation to my family, Chen Shiqing still gave me a marriage. That's all there is to it. He could only give me the title, because he had promised his love to someone else. I don't resent him for moving on. I resent him for deceiving me all those years and wasting the prime of my youth. For the sake of compromise. How many opportunities for advancement did I give up? Never again in this lifetime. I will soar higher and fly farther than Chen Shiqing. I won't give up opportunities for him anymore. Nor will I become the useless village woman he claims I am. Even if I'm just a wildflower, I'll do everything I can to bloom. Little did I know. When I arrived outside the production brigade's gate, I heard my own name. How can you be so sure that person is Manqing? From the window. I saw the team leader's brow furrowed so deeply it could have crushed a fly. Chen Shiqing was supporting a sobbing He Shuilian. These two were so wrapped up in themselves, they completely failed to notice the team leader's mounting impatience. Chen Shiqing encouraged He Shuilian. Shuilian, don't be afraid, speak up. I won't take Manqing's side. I scoffed, as if I needed his favoritism. He Shuilian seemed to gather her courage and said, I saw Chen Manqing come to our educated youth dormitory. No outsiders had come before. I did indeed go to the educated youth dormitory. However, I went to the men's dormitory, and I was looking for Xingzhou. When we were carrying the manure buckets together, I noticed his shoulder was bothering him. After mother passed away, I was the one who fetched all the water for the household. I knew exactly how painful it was to have your shoulder rubbed raw and bloody by a carrying pole. So I went to the educated youth dormitory to bring in Xingzhou some medicine. Chen Shiqing said firmly to the production team leader. Team leader, you don't need to spare my feelings. Punish him as he deserves. God damn it. The brigade leader took a drag from his pipe and slowly exhaled a smoke ring. Even though I could only see the backs of Chen Shiqing and He Shuilian, I knew they must have been wearing expressions of eager anticipation, waiting for the brigade leader to start cursing. The brigade leader did indeed start cursing, but it wasn't me he was cursing at. You two, unhand each other. Carrying on like this in broad daylight. What kind of behavior is that, Chen Shiqing? Have you so little faith in your own sister? Even an outsider like me knows what kind of person Manqing is. Has all the rice the Chen family fed you gone to waste? You're so bewitched by a pretty face you've forgotten your own name. And you, He Shuilian. The state sent you educated youths to the countryside to make something of yourselves, not to be worshipped like some village deity. Don't bring that capitalist decadence into our production brigade. We don't welcome your kind here. I will report your conduct during this period truthfully to the higher-ups. I already know what happened. He Shuilian had a silver ring, said to be a token of love from her parents. Later, that very ring became a token of love between her and Chen Shiqing. Now, the ring is lost. In her past life, He Shuilian had made the same complaint to the production brigade. By that time, my reputation had already been nearly ruined by Chen Shiqing and He Shuilian. A lot of people thought I stole the ring out of jealousy for He Shuilian, just to make her upset. They all took He Shuilian's side. Chen Shiqing pressed down on my shoulders, forcing me to bow and apologize to He Shuilian. I was crying my eyes out. The squad leader had a stern face but a soft heart. Having watched me grow up, he still spoke up for me. He publicly scolded me a few times and promised to help He Shuilian find her ring, which finally settled the matter. Back then, I absolutely loathed Chen Shiqing. He Shuilian's ring was eventually found. She explained that she had accidentally dropped it deep in her luggage, where it got buried under a pile of clutter. But I waited until the day I died, and her apology never came. I walked straight into the production brigade's headquarters. The brigade leader spotted me first and said, Manqing, you're just in time. Someone's accused you of stealing. I don't believe it. Of course. How do you think we should handle this? Chen Shiqing looked at me sternly and said, Manqing, if you've made a mistake, you should have the courage to admit it. Otherwise, you disgrace the honorable memory of your parents, the martyrs. I shot Chen Shiqing a sidelong glance. He wasn't worth a direct look. I said to the brigade leader. The fact that I've been to the educated youth outpost isn't enough to prove I stole anything, but to clear my name, I'm willing to let everyone search my room. However, you can't just search my room. Since her things went missing at the outpost, that place needs to be searched too. The brigade leader nodded and went out to call for people. He Shuilian nestled in Chen Shicheng's arms, a look of utter triumph spreading across her face. It was the smile of someone whose scheme had succeeded, but how could I possibly let her have her way? If she wants to move into my house, she can get lost. Along with Chen Shicheng, a crowd had gathered outside my house. Thanks to He Shuilian's loudmouthing and Chen Shicheng's cooperation, everyone had dropped their work, willing to forego their work points just to be part of the spectacle. The murmurs and whispers swirled around, and not all of them were about me. Some were talking about Chen Shicheng, saying he had no sense of loyalty. My parents raised him for so many years. Even if I was in the wrong, he shouldn't have taken sides with others. Chen Shicheng's face flushed with heat. Upon hearing the news, the party secretary hurried back as well. Once everyone had gathered, the squad leader selected a few men to go in and search. The party secretary reminded them not to break anything in my house. To avoid any accusation of moving contraband, I stayed outside the main gate and didn't go in. After waiting over half an hour, the search party came out empty-handed. He Shuilian was incredulous, and Chen Shicheng looked rather embarrassed. He Shuilian turned to leave. I called out, "So we're going to check the educated youth dormitory with Comrade He now, right?" The brigade leader declared loudly. "That's right." He Shuilian shot me a venomous glare. I smiled and trailed slowly behind the crowd. The two female educated youths staying at my house gave me an almost imperceptible nod. I gave them a grateful smile in return. No matter how unwilling He Shuilian was, with so many people watching, she couldn't possibly weasel out of it. Chen Shicheng tried to soothe her, saying, "Don't worry, we'll definitely help you find it." He Shuilian didn't look the least bit pleased. When she saw me smiling at her, her expression grew even more sour, her eyes fixed intently on the inside of the dormitory. Her only intention was to set me up. It took me a whole lifetime to understand this. But there's one thing I've never understood, why she harbored such intense malice towards me. The educated youth dormitory housed a lot of people, so in theory, it should have been difficult to investigate. The party secretary suggested, "A ring is a small thing. Comrade He might have simply misplaced it. Let's start by checking her luggage, shall we? That's all right with you, Comrade He?" The party secretary asked He Shuilian this with a smile, right in front of everyone. Not wanting to offend the secretary, He Shuilian had no choice but to grit her teeth and agree. Within minutes, the brigade leader's wife found the ring tucked away in a hidden compartment of He Shuilian's suitcase. She held it up for all to see before finally handing it over to He Shuilian. The team leader asked, "Take a look, is this yours?" He Shuilian had shown off this ring in front of the educated youths. Before she could even answer, one of them eagerly chimed in, "That's the one." What else could He Shuilian say? She had no choice but to admit it was the one she had lost. She let out a sigh of relief, as if genuinely putting her mind at ease over the found ring. The missing items were found exactly as they were, right inside her suitcase. The brigade leader's face darkened. "Next time, keep track of your own belongings. Don't think you can just throw accusations around at our brigade's good comrades because you're from the city," the party secretary added. Comrade Chen Manqing has submitted her party membership application. Given her outstanding performance, the organization has already approved it. It's fortunate the truth came out in this matter. Otherwise, He Shuilian, you would have been slandering a party member. A clear act of distrust in the party. The brigade party secretary was usually an easygoing man, but he couldn't stand He Shuilian's antics. He Shuilian had no idea how much weight the party secretary's words carried. She was always malicious and foolish, but in her past life, her luck had been far too good. Everything had gone her way. Only Chen Shicheng was thrown into a panic. He hurriedly asked the party secretary, "Why is it Chen Manqing's party membership application? Wasn't it my application that was submitted?" The brigade leader said sternly, "How dare you even bring that up? The production brigade trusted you and made you deputy leader of Team 2, but have you lived up to your responsibilities?" He Shuilian is from a Black 7 category. The state sent her to the countryside to be re-educated and to break her habit of seeking special privileges. But you, not only did you fail to help her improve, you were corrupted by her instead. You abused your authority for personal gain and special treatment. This was the most serious accusation one could face in that era, though in a few years' time, He Shuilian's background would no longer be an issue. But Chen Shicheng had no way of knowing what the future held. Chen Shicheng's face turned deathly pale. He felt his life was over. He Shuilian stepped in front of Chen Shicheng, putting on a brave face, and addressed the brigade leader. "Even though you're the brigade leader, You can't talk about Chen Shicheng like that. It's because I wasn't feeling well that he, shut up. Before He Shuilian could finish, Chen Shicheng cut her off with a furious rebuke. He Shuilian was instantly hurt. I was trying to help you, and you yell at me, you don't love me anymore. Chen Shicheng couldn't care less about love at that moment. All he knew was that the woman standing before him had just ruined his future. He glared at He Shuilian with a murderous look in his eyes. I let out a soft, derisive chuckle. So this is their so-called undying love, how fragile it turned out to be. I couldn't help but think of my past life, when I dragged my sickly body to the Gu family's doorstep. The entire family stood on the high steps, looking down on me. The scrutiny and contempt in their eyes made me feel not like their daughter-in-law, but like some poor distant relative come to beg for favors. They commented on my shabby clothes and my lack of sophistication. Shuilian said she has a poor character. Someone like that is not worthy of entering our Gu family. The Gu family made their fortune by riding the wave of China's reform and opening up, naturally. They look down on a country girl like me as a daughter-in-law, but it's only been a few years since the reforms, and they've already forgotten that it was my parents who took Gu Shicheng in, shared my own rations with him, and raised their son through hardship and toil. As the Gu family's prospective daughter-in-law, He Shuilian stood beside Gu Shicheng, their fingers intertwined. My life hangs in the balance, while theirs is one of perfect bliss. Now, my rebirth has thrown their life paths into disarray. Will Gu Shicheng still fall for the capitalist's daughter, the one everyone shuns? Will He Shuilian still love a Gu Shicheng who has nothing and remains unrecognized by the Gu family? The answer is a definite no. I watched with a cold sneer as they fought. Leaving each other bloodied and bruised, the team leader and the party secretary couldn't stand it anymore and started ordering everyone back to work. I raised my voice and said, everyone, hold on a moment, I have something to say. The party secretary asked me gently, Manqing, is there anything else? I want a formal separation from Gu Shicheng. My voice rang out clear and firm, instantly drawing the attention of everyone in the room. The production team leader asked, what separation? Who is Gu Shicheng? The party secretary asked sharply. His parents are surnamed Gu. Are they still alive? I nodded. Gu Shicheng looked at me with shock and suspicion. The people in the brigade only knew my parents had taken Gu Shicheng in, but they didn't know who his parents were, simply assuming they had passed away. My parents had always concealed the identity of Gu Shicheng's parents, and it was truly for his own good. Yet, Gu Shicheng later came to resent my parents, believing it was their concealment that prevented him from reuniting with his wealthy biological parents. Later, he took out his resentment toward my parents on me. He completely forgot that he had already found his birth parents by then. He simply chose not to acknowledge them himself. The party secretary asked, who are his parents? Where are they? Gu Shicheng's lips were trembling. He shook his head at me, pleading, Manqing, Manqing. He couldn't get any other words out. Just looked at me with a desperate, imploring gaze. The production team leader was a local through and through. Prompted by the party secretary, he asked, there was a woman named Feng Yan in our brigade. She married a man surnamed Gu from the neighboring county. Her husband was arrested and sent for re-education for speculation and profiteering. Feng Yan came back to her parents' home once, heavily pregnant. She never returned, not even when her parents passed away. Are they his parents? I nodded and said, my brother was left on our doorstep and adopted by my parents. There was no token or anything. My parents had a hunch that couple might be his birth parents, but they never dared to confirm it. For my brother's sake, they never tried to look into it. But a while ago, when I was in town, I accidentally saw my brother calling someone dad. I asked around and found out the man had just been released from prison. Gu Shicheng's face turned pale, then flushed with anger. I looked at him coldly, thinking to myself, now it's truly over. Who would dare recommend the son of a convict to be a worker peasant soldier student and go to university? My parents were martyrs renowned throughout the province. When I grew up, the provincial authorities granted me a university quota, allowing me to be recommended as a worker peasant soldier student. Gu Shicheng asked for it, so I gave it to him. After graduating from university, Gu Shicheng was assigned a good job and no longer had to scrape a living from the fields. Old man Gu came into a windfall. A few years later, riding the wave of China's reform and opening up, he made his family fortune for good. Gu Shicheng was reunited with his parents and used his connections to help He Shuilian return to the city, completely forgetting about me, the woman he had already married in the countryside. Now that his father's identity as a former convict has been exposed, Gu Shicheng can't pass the political screening. Getting into university is out of the question. He Shuilian stood with her arms crossed, looking down on all of us with an air of universal contempt. You people are so short-sighted. Shicheng's father is going to be a tycoon in Shenzhen one day. You're all a bunch of snobs, He Shuilian. That's enough, Gu Shiqing roared. He Shuilian grew frantic. I'm standing up for you. Gu Shiqing looked at her coldly. I don't need it. If you hadn't pushed me to reconcile with my parents, I wouldn't be in this mess today. He Shuilian recoiled 2 steps under Gu Shiqing's icy glare. Then, with a wounded look, she pushed her way through the crowd of onlookers and ran off. I can play the victim too, you know, just thinking about the suffering from my past life. The tears start falling without me even having to act. I sobbed. Brother. I don't want to bring up splitting the family either. But maybe it's because we don't share the same blood. You're always taking their side and blaming me. Gu Shiqing walked over to me and said gently, Manqing, give me another chance, will you? I pretended to look at him blankly. What do you mean, Manqing? I didn't mean to give you the cold shoulder. I was just worried seeing you with a backward element like in Xingzhou. I got too worked up and took it out on you. Once we're married, nothing like that will ever happen again. I couldn't help but let out a derisive snort. The party secretary wrapped his arms around the brigade leader's waist to stop him, or else the brigade leader's foot would have landed a kick on Gu Shiqing. For God's sake, have some shame. I'm still here. Old Chen and his wife sacrificed themselves for this village. Their daughter is the village's daughter. She's my own daughter. As long as I'm around, I won't let you bully Manqing. The surrounding villagers voiced their agreement. I also said to Gu Shiqing, my relationship with Xingzhou is completely innocent, whether you believe it or not. I ask you not to casually slander people. The moment I finished speaking, I spotted Xingzhou among the crowd of onlookers. He offered a faint smile, one tinged with a loneliness I couldn't quite decipher. Regarding the issues with Gu Shiqing and He Shuilian, Gu Shiqing's were more serious. The production brigade even convened a special meeting to discuss whether he should stay or go. First, Gu Shiqing was stripped of his position as deputy leader of the second team, a role he had taken great pride in. To put it in the captain's words, giving someone like that authority would be a gross dereliction of duty to the rest of the team. No one objected, not even those who had once benefited from Gu Shiqing's favors, because what he did for He Shuilian went way too far. Some said he must have lost his mind. Who in their right mind would secure benefits for their own people so blatantly, as if everyone else was blind? Secondly, the team also sent someone to verify Gu Shiqing's background. Gu Shiqing was indeed the infant the brigade leader had mentioned. In other words, he truly was the son of that convict. In our era, political stance and family background determined almost everything. Gu Shiqing's future was effectively ruined. There was no need to split the household. The production team decided to transfer his household registration back to his biological father's family. However, there was a complication in the middle. Gu Shiqing's mother had long since remarried. As for the wealthy father Gu Shiqing was persuaded by He Shuilian to acknowledge, he was now nothing more than a recently released convict. He Shuilian painted a rosy picture of the future for Gu Shiqing. As long as they acknowledged each other now and served the other well, once the other party prospered, wouldn't the entire family fortune eventually be Gu Shiqing's? They had it all figured out, but they never could have anticipated that Gu Shiqing's biological father would suddenly go back on his word, refusing to acknowledge this son. And Xingzhou recounted this story he'd heard at the Educated Youth Outpost to me as a joke. I can't even, but I get it. This is probably just the same old story repeating itself, the next generation inheriting the inherent pettiness and selfishness of the last. Gu Shiqing probably never considered this, in his past life. If he hadn't had a respectable city job and a diploma from a good university, why on earth would they have acknowledged him? He Shuilian took Gu Shiqing to meet his relatives. The man had just been released and had nothing to his name. Suddenly, the son of a production brigade's deputy captain shows up on his doorstep. It was an offer too good to refuse, but now that Gu Shiqing is in trouble, he's no longer an asset but a liability. Being cast aside was inevitable. It's just like how Gu Shiqing used to treat me decently enough, but when He Shuilian came along, prettier than me, better at coaxing and sweet-talking, he made the same kind of choice. Gu Shiqing is no longer a member of our production brigade. He Shuilian's issue isn't major, but it's trickier to handle. As for wronging me, all she needs to do is apologize and admit she made a mistake. The relationship between her and Gu Shiqing is only superficially ambiguous, with no substantive involvement, so it's also difficult to impose any penalty. The party secretary suggested to the brigade leader, wronging a good comrade still points to issues in one's thinking and conduct. If we can't handle it here, we should report the facts truthfully to the commune and await their instructions. We mustn't let Comrade Manqing suffer injustice. If this matter isn't handled fairly, it will demoralize the rest of the team. The brigade leader agreed. However, Before the commune's official decision came down, He Shuilian vanished. The brigade leader and the party secretary questioned the educated youth at the settlement, but no one knew where she had gone, after what had happened. Everyone was steering clear of He Shuilian, afraid that any association with her would bring them bad luck, so, genuinely, no one had a clue about her whereabouts. I think there's probably one person who knows where she went, and Xingzhou and I, following the brigade leader and the party secretary, found Gu Shiqing. I was stunned by the sight before me. In a dilapidated thatched hut, Gu Shiqing lay unkempt on a straw mat, casually picking his teeth with a stalk of straw. The stench of alcohol hanging heavy in the air. I took an involuntary step back in disbelief, and Xingzhou took 2 steps forward, placing himself in front of me. The team leader asked, "Do you know where He Shuilian went?" Gu Shiqing cast a lazy glance at us, his eyes lingering on me, shielded behind Xingzhou. He sneered, "Who knows? She said she was going home, headed into the mountains." The brigade leader and the party secretary exchanged a look. The mountains here may not stretch for 1,000 miles, but they are deep and treacherous. I've heard there are wolves and other wild beasts. Only adults dare venture in, and even then, only in groups. That's also where my father had his accident and ultimately lost his life. I despise He Shuilian, but she is still a human life. The team leader and the party secretary turned and left immediately, probably to dispatch a rescue team into the remote mountains. I glared at Gu Shiqing in fury. "Don't you like her? Why didn't you stop her? Why just watch her walk to her death?" Gu Shiqing cast a dismissive glance my way. "Like her? Since when is liking someone such a precious commodity? I used to have feelings for you too, you know. Do you still like me now?" I looked at him with disappointment. The Gu Shiqing of the past was driven by a somewhat utilitarian ambition, but at least he was motivated and upwardly mobile. But now, he's become as dejected and hopeless as a lump of mud that can't be helped up, and Xingzhou didn't want me to have any more dealings with Gu Shiqing. He lowered his voice and said, "The team leader has already sent people to look for him. Should we go and see if we can help too?" I nodded, then left with Xingzhou without so much as a backward glance at the man lying collapsed on the bed, right in the middle of the frantic harvest. The team couldn't spare that many able-bodied workers. I stepped forward and volunteered. "I'll go. My father told me about the terrain in the mountains, and he even drew a simple map. Comrade Xingzhou is helping to make a few more copies right now. We'll distribute them to everyone shortly." The party secretary nodded. "With a map, we can go a bit deeper, and our chances of finding them will be a bit higher. Manqing, you've done very well, but as a young woman, you shouldn't go. It's too dangerous." "I'm definitely going. When it comes to physical labor, I can work just as hard as any of the men, and the women on the team are more meticulous. You shouldn't underestimate us." And Xingzhou came out of the house holding a few sheets of paper. Hearing my words, he said, "I'll go with Comrade Manqing." Before the party secretary could object, and Xingzhou chimed in, mimicking my tone with a playful remark, "Don't underestimate us educated youths." The brigade leader said, "This is no joking matter." And Xingzhou offered a valid reason. "Comrade He Shuilian and I come from similar family backgrounds. If we find her, I can talk to her and help with her ideological re-education." The brigade leader and the party secretary were convinced. I simply didn't believe it, and Xingzhou clearly detested He Shuilian. Many years later, and Xingzhou told me a secret, He Shuilian possessed a strange book, although he had thrown it away. He was worried that the other bizarre things about He Shuilian might pose a threat to me. That's why he insisted on joining the search and rescue team back then, and insisted on being paired with me. We brought enough food and water into the mountains. After 3 days and 2 nights, with our supplies exhausted, we still hadn't found He Shuilian. The team leader gave the order to turn back. We took the main road on the return journey, which was safer. We passed a strange stretch of mountainside. That particular section was bare of any greenery, its surface a mix of black and brown. Under the sunlight, parts of it gleamed with a metallic sheen. The brigade leader saw me stop and stare. After a moment's hesitation, he said, "Manqing, that's where your father gave his life. My father used to lead teams to search for iron ore for the village's steel production. He died trying to save others. It was only today that I learned the place where he met his end was deep in the mountains like this." Everyone looked at me with pity in their eyes. In an instant, my tears welled up and spilled over. I said to the squad leader, "May I go take a closer look?" The squad leader agreed. He led the others ahead, saying they would rest up there and that I should take my time, and Xingzhou followed me, keeping a careful distance, thinking of everything that had happened in my past life and recently. An overwhelming sense of injustice welled up in my heart. If my parents were still here, would Gu Shiqing even dare to bully me? I crouched down and wailed, the wind rustling through the mountain forest as if mourning with me. I cried until I was hiccuping. my tears still flowing as if they'd never end, and Xingzhou approached. He handed me a handkerchief, thinking it was for me to dry my tears. I took it, only to find a beautiful stone wrapped inside. Keep it as a memento, consider it a gift from your father. The tears I had almost managed to hold back burst forth once more, completely overwhelming me at Xingzhou's words, and Xingzhou, realizing he had misspoken, paced back and forth beside me, utterly flustered. After a long moment, he seemed to come to a decision. He crouched down next to me and began to hum softly. I left my home to save my love, Li Lang, never dreaming I'd top the royal exam, don the red robe, oh how fine, a palace flower in my cap, so fresh, so new. I was captivated by the fresh, clear singing and, without realizing it, stopped crying. Seeing that I had stopped crying, and Xingzhou said to me, "That's an aria from the Huanmei opera, the female prince consort." His voice was filled with endless longing. My mother sang Huanmei opera in a troupe. She had a beautiful voice. That's how she met my father, through the opera. They later married and had me. After my mother passed away, my father was heartbroken. He was sent down to a cadre school for re-education. I was worried about him, so I specifically chose to come here as an educated youth, hoping that if the chance ever arose, I might see him again. Comrade Manqing, I'm not telling you this to seek your pity. I just want you to know that as long as you live well, there is hope. It's like this Huanmei opera, banned from the stage, yet I remember its melodies, and others remember them too. That is hope itself. He confided his most private secret to me, while I sympathized with his plight. A sense of resolve also stirred within me, and I felt a surge of encouragement for him. One day, such opera melodies will resonate across our nation again. When that day comes, we will give voice to all the emotions that this silenced era has forced us to suppress. Will that day ever come? I asked myself, and Xingzhou looked at me with a gentle smile. I gave myself a firm answer. There would be, and Xingzhou said, my name, Xingzhou, comes from the saying learning is like rowing a boat upstream. If you don't advance, you will fall back. So, even in a situation like this, my father encourages me to study hard. You should do the same, keep striving, and everything will get better. Well, everything will be alright. I am willing to believe in Xingzhou, and even more so, in the vitality of our nation, our motherland. She fought her way out of a desperate situation, and this path, our generation will broaden it and make it smoother. The commune organized another large search party for He Shuilian, but it ultimately turned up nothing. There was no word from her hometown either. Still, most people believed she had run back home. After all, it was not unheard of for educated youths who couldn't endure the hardship to flee back to the cities, but news of her was gradually forgotten, as everyone had more pressing matters to attend to. I was no different. The party secretary said to me, Manqing, there's a university placement quota available. After discussion, the team has decided to recommend you. Do you agree? I had no reason to refuse. As the day for school drew near, I packed my bags and set off, and Xingzhou stood at the crossroads, watching me leave. I kept looking back at him, and at this land, I will return. I am a child of the soil, and I must return to the land where my roots lie. Just as my forebears gave of themselves, I too will dedicate everything I have to this earth. Male leads POV, side story. I still remember that day decades ago when she said, my relationship with Xingzhou is completely innocent. There was still so much that Manqing did not understand. What she didn't understand was this, between her and me, it was never innocent, because I like her. I liked her from the very first moment I saw her. To be precise, I was already interested in her even before we met. But back then, I didn't realize how my gaze was so unfairly fixed on her. The moment her palm touched mine as she handed me the medicine, something exploded in my mind, a dazzling, brilliant light, like a meteor more spectacular than any firework. From then on, every time we met was a grand celebration for me alone. The girl was beautiful, yet oblivious. Fortunately, there will be plenty of time ahead. According to the book, my first meeting with Chen Manqing was at the village entrance. The spoiled girl reached out to her brother, asking for white rabbit candy. When she didn't get it, she threw a little tantrum. Because she was so pretty, everyone present forgave her for making a scene, but in reality, our first meeting was in the fields. She was a girl who could endure great hardship, with calluses on her hands thicker than her brother's. Someone like that could never have been raised in a pampered, sheltered way, so I seized an opportunity and stole He Shuilian's book. That book was He Shuilian's secret. All the way, she was furtively flipping through the pages of that book. Strangely, everyone around her seemed to turn a blind eye to her actions. No one asked her what the book was. I thought of the ruined classics and my father's professional books on the shelf at home. Something felt very off, so I decided to sneak a peek at the book's contents. It was an utterly preposterous romance novel. I hadn't even finished it before I came to that conclusion. The male lead was Gu Shiqing, and the female lead was He Shuilian. Gu Shiqing is the long-lost son of a wealthy man, while He Shuilian is a time traveler from 50 years in the future. They fell in love at first sight and were deeply enamored with each other. The only obstacle between them is the male lead's sister, Chen Manqing. Chen Manqing is in love with her adopted brother, Gu Shiqing, but he only sees her as a sister. The book says that Gu Shiqing, unable to bring himself to refuse Chen Manqing, was forced into marrying her out of a sense of obligation. Yet he carried on flirtatiously with He Shuilian all the while. Gu Shiqing married Chen Manqing out of duty. What he had with He Shuilian was true love. I was so furious I could only laugh. He married her even though he didn't love her. Then he got her pregnant, made her work in the fields while she was heavily pregnant. And she ended up miscarrying. The book claimed that Chen Manqing's tragedy was a result of her being spoiled and pampered, a fate she brought upon herself. I saw no trace of that spoiling in her. Down-to-earth simplicity was her true nature. When I reopened the book, I was astonished to find the beginning of the story had changed, transformed into everything I had truly experienced. I frantically flipped through the pages, only to find blank sheet after blank sheet. I could not catch a glimpse of our future. I lingered on that blank page, and slowly, a few large words materialized upon it. Do you wish to change your fate? Then proceed as instructed and complete the corresponding task. This book will make you the master of this world. I think I'm starting to understand something. I threw that book into the cesspit. Gu Shiqing and He Shuilian are, in truth, mere puppets of this book. Their characters are as lifeless as taxidermy specimens in a museum. Chen Manqing and I will never become people like that. I am utterly captivated by the radiance that shines from Chen Manqing, like a springtime blooming in the countryside. Everyone simply followed the story's plot, yet I am willing to love you, swimming against the current in the river of fate. Extra chapter, the male lead's perspective. My dear wife Manqing, I hope this letter finds you well and smiling. I wonder how your research is progressing. All is well on my end. I coughed for a while. My hands trembling slightly, I pushed the letter paper aside, afraid I might cough up blood and stain it. The medical staff anxiously crowded around the sickbed, pushing the assistants out of the way. Mr. N, are you all right? What's wrong? I shook my head gently, took a moment to steady myself, and only when my hand was steady did I continue writing. That year during the double rush, you were out in the field shouting women hold up half the sky, working harder than anyone. Manqing, I agree with everything you say, but this one time, I think you're wrong. You hold up the entire sky for our family. I finished the stationery and asked them for more. I need to write a few more letters, send one out for me each month. That way, Manqing will think I'm still alive, and her heartbreak can be delayed a little longer. The medical staff, their voices choked with emotion, urged me, Mr. N, your body is failing. You should rest now. My assistant turned her head away. Unable to look at me, tears glistening in the corners of her eyes, a sense of dread washed over me, my heart seizing in an instant. I asked her, what's wrong with Manqing? Tell me the truth. My assistant's voice was choked with tears. Professor Chen, she passed away last night. My hand went limp and dropped onto the quilt. How could this happen? I just spoke to her on the phone a month ago. Professor Chen collapsed in the lab 3 months ago. They managed to revive her temporarily. But the doctors said her liver was severely damaged from long-term exposure to pesticides during her research. She was incredibly strong, holding on for so long. My assistant broke down in tears as she finished speaking. She's also my student. Every time she came to our home, Manqing would cook her all sorts of delicious meals. The assistant never called Manqing Shenyang, the wife of one's teacher, she said. Professor Chen is a remarkable woman in her own right, not an appendage to anyone. How could my brilliant Manqing be gone, just like that? That year, the province allocated a university admission spot to our brigade, and it went to Manqing without a doubt. Her parents, one died in a perilous search for iron ore to make steel for the village, sacrificing himself to save his teammates. The other, upon realizing a flash flood was coming, broadcast the evacuation order to the whole village over the loudspeakers but didn't have time to escape. Leaving only a few last words before the floodwaters surged into the station and claimed her. After careful and deliberate consideration, Manqing decided to major in pesticide science. With only a junior high school education, Manqing was suddenly thrust into university-level studies. In her letters to me, she described her days as both agonizing and fulfilling. It took her a tremendous amount of time just to keep up with her classmates, yet, she had no regrets. Comrade Xingzhou. I was recommended for university admission. There's a slogan on campus, the people sent me to university, and I study at university for the people. I must work even harder to serve the people sooner. I wrote back to her, Comrade Manching, I can feel your sincere devotion. I wish you every success in your studies. Later, when the national college entrance exams were reinstated, I also pursued a major related to agricultural science. We still wrote to each other frequently, though we dropped the comrade from our salutations, because we were together, but our work kept us apart more often than not. The harsh light of the hospital room made my eyes well up with tears, and I slowly sank back onto the bed. The sounds of grief around me grew fainter and farther away. Manching, I'm here. Story 2. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my husband's childhood sweetheart returned from out of town. Heavily pregnant, this childhood sweetheart, Xiao Yunyun, was a hopeless romantic. After meeting someone online, she ran off to his city chasing love. Little did she expect that when she was 6 months pregnant, the man would abandon her, forcing her to return home. Because our families lived close by, my mother-in-law had taken us over to their place for a visit. In a fit of rage right in front of us, her mother was about to hit her, giving her two options: either get an abortion, or give the baby up for adoption after giving birth. Xiao Yunyun knelt on the floor, tears welling up in her eyes. Mom, the baby is already 7 months along, it'll be born in just a few more months. These are 2 lives we're talking about. I don't care. Why isn't the father taking responsibility? Did you come running home expecting me, a single mother, to raise it for you? I know my mother-in-law's best friend all too well, since our families have always been very close. Xiao Yunyun's mother, Auntie Lu, got divorced years ago and raised her daughter on her own. She often says I'm like a second daughter to her. My soft-hearted husband, Jian Mingjie, can't stand to see Yunyun cry. His heart went out to her, and he helped her up from the floor. Yunyun, just apologize and say you're sorry. Your mother only wants what's best for you. He turned and looked at me. Wu Yin, Yunyun is a single mother. She can't afford to raise 2 children. How about, we raise the baby after it's born? In my past life, I only hesitated for 2 seconds before nodding in agreement. The reason was, after 4 years of marriage to Jian Mingjie without conceiving a child, he had never abandoned me and had always defended me in front of his parents. He's been the one putting on a cheerful face for me in front of all our friends and family. He's even more filial to my parents than I am, always bringing home bags full of health supplements during the holidays. I long to have a baby with him. We are a loving couple, and not having a child is the only thing missing in our lives. Actually, my period is already a few days late this month. I just hadn't let myself think about that possibility. I agreed to adopt the child of his childhood sweetheart. Then, worn out by caring for a pair of twins, I had a miscarriage. The doctor told me I could never have children of my own. In my past life, I never knew that the so-called online boyfriend of Xiao Yunyun was actually my dear husband. I fell for the sweet talk from both families and ended up ruining my entire life. In this life, looking at the scene before me, I just felt like laughing. Xiao Yunyun's mother, along with my mother-in-law and Jian Mingjie, the 3 of them had probably already schemed together on how to trick me into taking in these 2 children. They had it all figured out, using me as their cash cow, working my fingers to the bone to bankroll their whole family. I was blind to it in my past life, but in this one, they won't get a single penny out of me. Mingjie, we're going to have our own baby. Jian Mingjie's eyes widened. He didn't look at me, but instead turned his gaze to Aunt Lu, then to my mother-in-law and Xiao Yunyun. After their eyes met in a silent exchange, Jian Mingjie was momentarily stunned. What followed was shock, not delight. Wu Yin, are you serious? Absolutely. Last night, I dreamt I was holding a huge carp, cradling it in my arms. My mother says that's a pregnancy dream. It means it's a boy. My mother-in-law wore a smile, but it was patently insincere. Since my rebirth, I've seen things with much clearer eyes. So many details I never noticed before are now laid bare before my eyes, perfectly clear. Wu Yin, you can't take a dream as proof of a child. It's not real. I knew they wouldn't want to admit it. If I really were pregnant, why on earth would I accept the illegitimate child of his childhood sweetheart and Jian Mingjie? I just don't get it. If he's in love with Xiao Yunyun, why did he have to come and ruin my life? And another thing, in my past life, I was perfectly healthy, so why did I suddenly have a miscarriage right after adopting the twins? My health had always been fine before that. The reason I hadn't gotten pregnant was because I was too busy. And also, for the first 2 years of our marriage, I was on birth control for work, but when I finally wanted to have a baby with Jian Mingjie, I just couldn't conceive. Mom, at least it's a good sign. Maybe Mingjie and I will have our own child soon. Why on earth would I raise someone else's child when I have my own precious one, especially not his and Xiao Yunyun's illegitimate child, remembering everything I went through in my past life. I want to tear apart this crowd of utterly hypocritical people in front of me. It's It's just that you haven't been able to conceive. Wu Yin, think about it carefully. Yun Yun is all alone, and it's really not easy for her. What does her hardship have to do with me? They're already trying to guilt trip me before I even agree. Let's see what other tricks they have up their sleeves. Oh, Jian Mingjia's face darkened. What do you mean? Are you saying you won't help Yun Yun, Wu Yin? I never thought you could be like this. All these years you couldn't conceive. Think of how much I've covered for you in front of your parents, our friends, and family. How can you be so unreasonable? That's right, Wu Yin, since you married into our Jian family, haven't we treated you well? Now that Aunt Lu and Yun Yun are in such a difficult spot, what's the harm in lending a hand? They talk about adopting 2 children as if they're just picking up a couple of stray cats or dogs. We'll help. Of course we'll help. I'll have my friend in the media track down her boyfriend's workplace. If he has a proper job, he won't want this to blow up into a scandal. We hold all the cards here. Jian Mingjia was stunned. The mother-in-law was struck speechless. As for Aunt Lu and Xia Yunyun, their tearful faces had already turned beet red, their gaping mouths hung open. Perhaps none of the 3 of them expected that I, usually so docile, would suddenly become so sharp and even think of this method of counterattack. And what's more, how could I even stop listening to Jian Mingjia? Darling, Yinin, how could you do this? My husband said urgently. Mingjia, what have I done? I'm just trying to find a solution for Xia Yunyun. Tell me, is there a more practical method than this? He was left speechless by the retort. Someone with a guilty conscience wouldn't dare leave any evidence. They just want me to be the fall guy. I'm just not taking the bait. It's not me who's in a hurry, so I'll just sit back, munch on some seeds, and enjoy the show. You can't. My mother-in-law was terrified I'd actually call my media contacts. Mom, what can't I do? You can't go looking for her boyfriend. I mean, you're in a strange place. You wouldn't even know where to start. Yun Yun is about to give birth. We need to focus on the problem right in front of us. I crossed my arms and looked at Jian Mingjia. Wu Yin, stop making a scene. After all these years without getting pregnant, wouldn't adopting Yun Yun's child be perfect? It would spare you any more hardship. He spoke with such sincerity. To have a child. I even went through IVF. I endured so many injections, suffered so much hardship, and in the end, I was manipulated by them for a lifetime. Honey, if, and I mean if, we had our own child, would you choose to adopt Xia Yunyun? Or would you want our own? I asked that on purpose. I already knew the answer, but I still wanted to hear it. Perhaps this is just a woman's tenacity in matters of the heart. Yun Yun has had a hard time, and we should lend a hand when we can. Wu Yin, I know you understand. Ha, I really brought this humiliation upon myself. Knowing something in theory is one thing, but hearing the confirmation out loud finally killed all hope. I'm tired, I want to go home. If I stay any longer, I'm afraid I won't be able to stop myself from slapping him. Jian Mingjia could tell I was in a bad mood. After all, when you've known someone for years, a single glance is enough to understand each other. All right then, let me take you home so you can get some proper rest. What about you? He looked at Xia Yunyun. I need to go to the baby store to get some maternity supplies for Yun Yun. Be good, okay, Yun Yun this, Yun Yun that. She's his top priority in everything. Anyone would think Xia Yunyun was his wife. Was I a fool, or was I blind? How could I have refused to see such an obvious flaw? Jian Mingjia came home very late that night. I felt the mattress dip, and then his arm came around me out of habit. Ever since my rebirth, the very sight of this man has filled me with disgust. When he touched me, I fought back the wave of discomfort and quietly turned over. Yinin, are you awake? Is everything arranged for Xia Yunyun? Pretty much. Yinin, Yun Yun is pregnant and needs someone to look after her. Auntie Lu suggested I go over to keep her company when I can. You don't mind, do you? I scoffed inwardly. What does her child have to do with you? What are you implying? Yun Yun and I grew up together. We're like siblings. You're not seriously jealous of her, are you, Wu Yin? Your behavior today is truly disappointing. With that, he turned his back to me and refused to engage any further. How had I never noticed before? Every time we had a disagreement, he would resort to the silent treatment and then turn around and accuse me of being unreasonable. The CPU is full of tricks. With the rose-tinted glasses of love gone, he's just an ordinary, overly sentimental man. I must have been blind back then. May the unfaithful swallow 10,000 needles. In our past life, you lived a life of luxury with my wealth, while my soul had long since drifted to who knows where. In this life, I will make sure you never get what you want. Lying in bed, my thoughts drifted far away. When I was dating Jian Mingjia, my childhood friend Xia Yunyun was always the third wheel between us. Back then, I was a sophomore, and Jian Mingjia was a senior, 1 year ahead of me. One day, my roommate told me that a photo of me studying in the library had been posted on the campus confessions wall. Wu Yin, You've been confessed to by a senior, and it's Senior Jian Mingjie, the guy half the girls on campus have a crush on. Are you serious? My roommate dragged me over to the confession wall. It was a photo of me deep in thought while reading. The background was blurred, and in the picture, I looked every bit the studious, sweet, and playful girl. The photo caused a sensation. My classmates managed to find out my class, major, and even my dorm. That very night, Jian Mingjie was standing outside my dormitory building, holding a bouquet of roses. My roommates gave me a beautiful makeover and then sent me downstairs. Hello, Wu Yin, I'm Jian Mingjie. I like you. Will you be my girlfriend? I shyly accepted the flowers. Well, we'll see how you do. He proved his sincerity through his actions. Jian Mingjie is tall and good-looking. Our height difference makes us look great together. He's a bit shy and blushes easily when teased, but he was really good to me. He'd fetch water and food for me, save me a seat in the library, send red packets and little gifts on holidays, and was always checking in on me. He really did everything right, that is, if he hadn't brought his childhood friend, Xiao Yunyun, along on every single date. The first time I met Xiao Yunyun was not long after we had just made our relationship official. He said he had a childhood friend, a girl from the neighborhood, who went to the school next door, and told me not to be nervous. With a touch of apprehension, I went to the restaurant across from the school. Through the glass, I saw Jian Mingjie sitting with a girl. She had her arm hooked through his and was leaning against his shoulder. They were chatting intimately, and Jian Mingjie even reached out to stroke her hair. The girl giggled. Their heads were so close they were almost touching. Anyone who saw that would have sworn they were a loving couple. I was young back then. The moment I voiced my doubts, he swore to the heavens that he was completely devoted to me, and that his relationship with Xiao Yunyun was purely like that of a brother and sister. They grew up together. If they had wanted to be together, they'd had plenty of chances. It wouldn't have waited until now. She even called his mother right in front of me. His mom explained the history between our families and repeatedly assured me there was nothing going on between them, telling me not to worry. That finally put my doubts to rest. To be honest, our first meeting wasn't exactly pleasant. Xiao Yunyun had short hair and a no-nonsense, tomboyish air about her. Though her features were still delicate and pretty, in front of Jian Mingjie, she could be quite domineering and even a bit spoiled, a clear sign of someone used to being indulged. The moment I walked in, Jian Mingjie quickly pulled his hand away from hers, but she stubbornly refused to change her posture. Her eyes swept over me from head to toe. So, this is Jian Mingjie's type. What kind of girl? The complete opposite of her. Long, flowing hair, a sweet face, and a simple, gentle nature. Xiao Yunyun and I really were polar opposites. Even though I felt uneasy, I truly loved him back then. My lovesick brain kept convincing me that nothing was wrong between them and that I was just overthinking it. Don't talk nonsense. You'll make my girlfriend blush. Jian Mingjie took the opportunity to take my hand and guide me to sit beside him. Oh. Getting protective, are we, Jian Mingjie? I haven't even said anything yet. Afraid I'll bully your little bunny, me. That dinner was definitely not a pleasant one. She's my boyfriend's childhood neighbor. I thought that as long as Jian Mingjie loved me, I could overlook all her little antics. After all, I'm not the one dating her. But then, for every date after that, 8 out of 10 times he'd bring Xiao Yunyun along. Looking back now, I can't even remember how he managed to talk me into accepting it. My phone lit up with a call from Jian Mingjie. I frowned and answered. Hello, Yining, isn't your cousin the head of gynecology at 4th Hospital? Can you ask her to see Yunyun? Maybe pull some strings to get her in. My sister is a top gynecologist. Between her constant studying, lecturing, and traveling for conferences, it's hard to get an appointment with her even if you book well in advance. She's the one who's always taken care of my health. At the entrance of the 4th Hospital, Xiao Yunyun, with her prominent baby bump, got out of the car, leaning on Jian Mingjie's arm as he helped her down. They exchanged a smile, looking every bit the picture of a doting wife and her attentive husband. The moment he saw me, the smile vanished from his face. Wu Yin, what are you doing standing here? Did you arrange things with your sister in advance? I did. Did you get the gift for my sister ready? He opened his phone. A gift set of the Black Bandage skincare line was already ordered and paid for. Ha, he's really going all out for the baby in Xiao Yunyun's belly. A smile was plastered on my face, while a bitter hatred churned and rose within me. He only ever gave me discounted items. When has he ever spent this much on me? I'd been to Xiao Yunyun's place. Her vanity was lined with nothing but international luxury brands, cosmetics, jewelry, designer bags. I bet it was all bought with our marital assets. For years of dating, for years of marriage, in all these 8 years, what role did I even play? Was I the catalyst for his and Xiao Yunyun's affair, or just a human shield for their illicit love? None of that matters anymore. what I want is for them to pay. In the examination room, my sister glanced at Xia Yunyun. Mingjia, your childhood friend is pregnant. Shouldn't her husband be the one accompanying her? Jian Mingjia was taken aback for a moment, but quickly regained his composure. Yunyun, she's single. Oh, Jian Mingji took my hand, as if to explain something. Yining and I have been trying for a child all these years with no luck. We're thinking of adopting my childhood friend's kid. I gave a bitter, inward laugh. To say something like that in front of my family, it just showed how little I meant to him. My sister and I exchanged a glance, our eyes filled with confusion. But doesn't Yining already have a child? Why would she want to adopt someone else's? Jian Mingjia, a child? That can't be. How is that impossible? Shouldn't you be happy that she's having a baby? What's with that attitude? My sister was clearly a bit upset. I quickly patted her on the shoulder. Mingjia just needs a little time to get used to the idea. I had spoken to my cousin privately, asking her to keep the secret from me so I could surprise my husband. After getting an earful from my sister, Jian Mingjia finally realized that, as a husband, he really shouldn't have acted that way. No, sis, it's just that, I thought it was odd. Yining hasn't been able to conceive for so many years, and then suddenly she's pregnant. Exactly, if she could get pregnant, she would have done so long ago. Why would it only happen now? Said Xia Yunyun. I was so angry I clenched my fists. This woman just loves to throw shade. I used to think she was just spoiled rotten, but now I realize she does it on purpose. Some people just can't stand to see others doing well. She stole my husband, used me as a stepping stone for their little love story, and then had the nerve to make me work my fingers to the bone for them. Are you Xia Yunyun? She nodded. You should get your head checked first. Xia Yunyun, how could you say that? My sister unhurriedly set down the pen in her hand. That's just how I talk. When Yining gets pregnant is her own business. What's it to anyone else? She then turned to the man beside her. Jian Mingjia, what kind of a husband are you? Sis, it was all just a joke. Wu Yin, talk some sense into your sister. Yunyun just speaks her mind. She doesn't mean any harm. I let out a soft, derisive chuckle. She was being blunt and direct, yet he was quick to gloss things over, acting as if my child had nothing to do with him. Let's just drop it. Sis, let's get the examination started. Xia Yunyun shot me an icy glare, as if I were the one to blame for everything. Then, I took the paper and left. You're really not going to tell him? I nodded. My cousin said it was difficult for me to conceive this child. If anything were to happen, the chances of getting pregnant again would be very slim. Ever since my rebirth, I never wanted to have that scumbag's child, but given my current situation, I have no other choice. After a whole morning of chaos, Jian Mingjia ended up ditching me to take Xia Yunyun home. That evening, Jian Mingjia asked me in all seriousness if I was really pregnant. I held the cup under the faucet to fill it with water. I looked at him with a smile in the corners of my eyes. Guess. I'm not a mind reader, you know. How am I supposed to know if you're really pregnant or just lying to me? This absolute scumbag. Xia Yunyun's baby is his treasure, while mine is just worthless to him. When I told him I was pregnant, his first instinct wasn't joy, but suspicion that I was lying to him. Why would I lie to you? Jian Mingjia stood up, took the glass from my hand, and drained it in one gulp. You don't want to adopt Yunyun's child. This is just your excuse. I was fuming inside. Honey, aren't you afraid I might poison you? Would you? Why was he so sure? Because I'd spoiled him, letting him believe we were each other's first love. From campus sweethearts to walking down the aisle, 8 years together. How many 8-year chapters does a life even have? But he and Xia Yunyun have known each other since they were in diapers. Put it that way, what we had really doesn't amount to much. But the worst part, the absolute unforgivable part, is that he lied to me and tried to squeeze every last bit of value out of me. Spit it out. Are you pregnant or not? He pressed, desperate for confirmation. I was just kidding, I said, deliberately drawing out the words. The tension in Jian Mingjia's face finally eased a little. He came over and pulled me into his arms. Yining, you scared me to death. We're in no position to raise a child right now. If you really want one, let's talk about it in a few years. In no position. He makes it sound like we're living in misery and he's the one carrying this family. He seems to have forgotten that I'm the one holding this household together. With his measly salary of a few thousand to 10,000 a month, could he even afford a jar of la mer, using my money to raise his mistress's child? How does he have the nerve? My family's circumstances are light years ahead of his. My father runs his own business, and my mother works in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm in charge of one of the several companies we have. From dating to marriage, my career has always come first. At the company, I'm the respected, high-achieving professional everyone looks up to. I'm the one who earned every one of the properties our family owns. It wasn't just about us. I even paid for a 3-bedroom apartment for his parents, right in the city center. Jian Mingjia's family were just ordinary working-class folks, after graduation. He was just a low-level clerk at a regular company. When we got married, there was no bride price, no marital home, nothing at all, and they had the nerve to call it free love, saying we shouldn't be tainted by these vulgar social customs. When it comes to your parents' lavish lifestyle and you buying luxury goods for your childhood sweetheart, why isn't that called a corrupting social influence? Last year, feeling too lonely, my mother-in-law insisted on having her old best friend move in to live with her. That's how we managed to scrape together enough money for Auntie Lu and Xiao Yunyun to buy a place in the same neighborhood as my mother-in-law. This brought the two families even closer. Judging by Xiao Yunyun's growing belly, that's probably when their old flame was rekindled, or maybe, their affair never really ended. They were just hiding it from a lovesick fool like me. I loved him with all my heart and never cared about his family's circumstances. Perhaps he, his family, and Xiao Yunyun all saw how naive and easily manipulated I was. As Xiao Yunyun's belly grew day by day, I knew they hadn't given up on convincing me to accept her 2 children. I could get a divorce right now, but why should I let that despicable pair off so easily? Not only will I let them have the child, but I'll also make sure they get a taste of life without money. Let's see if their little family can still be all lovey-dovey then. Over the weekend, my mother-in-law invited us over to her place for dinner. Jian Mingjie packed up a bunch of nutritional supplements early and got ready to head out. Those were all gifts from my clients and friends. I haven't even had a chance to send them to my parents yet. As soon as I stepped inside, I saw the 2 fixtures already seated on the living room sofa. Xiao Yunyun was heavily pregnant, her figure swollen and her mouth constantly moving. The acne on her face looked truly dreadful. I wondered if Jian Mingjie could even bring himself to kiss her looking like that. Auntie Lu came forward to greet us. "Yining, you're back. You're looking well lately, but still too thin. You should put on a bit of weight. It's better for childbearing." "Auntie Lu, I'm actually trying to lose weight." Ahem, someone cleared their throat. It was then that Auntie Lu realized Xiao Yunyun had overheard something she didn't like. "Oh, I wasn't talking about you. It's natural to gain weight when you're pregnant. After you give birth, just hand the baby over to Yining to raise. You can focus on losing weight however you want." Seriously, did I ever agree to be the one left holding the bag? Do they think just because the elders from both families have discussed it, my consent doesn't matter? "Auntie Lu, I'm swamped with work. I don't have time to raise a child." Auntie Lu looked at Jian Mingjie. "I have plenty of time. I can watch him," my dear husband said, anxious not to upset Xiao Yunyun's mother. "You may have time, but you're my husband. Aren't you worried her child's father will come after you if you're looking after Xiao Yunyun's kid?" "You, Wu Yin, what nonsense are you spouting? I think you're just looking for a fight, aren't you?" "Well, I'll be damned. How are you so clever?" "Wu Yin, since you can't have children yourself, why are you so against having mine?" Xiao Yunyun questioned righteously, a potato chip in her mouth. "I'm seriously about to be sick. Whether or not I have children is my business. Even if I don't, why on earth should I raise yours?" "What are you saying? You're a barren hen yourself, and you want to leave Jian Mingjie without an heir? With your condition, who else would even want you besides him?" Aunt Lu gave her a gentle pat. "Yunyun, that's enough." Yining and Mingjie fell in love of their own free will. She can't bear to leave him. What's wrong with marrying for love? How many dink couples end up regretting it when they're old? And you dare look down on my child? If you're so capable, go have your own. Yining, just say yes, please. Your dad, Mingjie, and I are all hoping for a grandchild. Yunyun and our family know each other inside out. The child will grow up to be filial to you. My in-laws stood in the living room, taking turns trying to brainwash me. If I nodded my head, they'd probably be setting off fireworks to celebrate the very next second. In my past life, I agreed all too quickly. From prenatal checkups to postpartum confinement and childcare, I was left to handle everything completely alone. I suggested hiring a nanny, but my mother-in-law insisted the baby needed to bond with me. That went on until I started having abdominal pain and bleeding. Just like that, I lost the baby. It's settled then. Yining, once Yunyun's baby is born, we'll take it home with us. My wonderful husband makes the decision. But that statement felt more like a notification for me. I pursed my lips lightly, turned around, and put on my shoes. "Wu Yin, where are you going? It's stifling in here. I need to get some air." Just one more look from that crowd made me feel suffocated. I went downstairs, turned off my phone, and headed straight to my parents' house. After being reborn, when I saw my parents again, my tears fell like a broken string of pearls. In my past life, after I died, I wonder how they got on. It must have been utterly heartbreaking for them. Their own daughter raised someone else's child, only to meet a tragic end. They inherited the family fortune without a second thought. Jian Mingjie married Xiao Yunyun, and those two ungrateful wretches went back to their birth parents. The family of four was finally reunited, all the while cursing me for tearing them apart. They shamelessly enjoyed the wealth I had built. Mom wiped the tears from my face. Enin, what's wrong? Did Mingjie do something to upset you? I shook my head. I just missed you, Mom. Can I come home and stay for a few more days? Jian Mingjie and I are usually inseparable, so when I came back to my parents' house alone, they naturally suspected something was up. Did you have a fight with Mingjie? Or is this about the baby issue again? The baby issue, after all these years of marriage. That topic seems to come up every single time. My own parents are very understanding and have never pressured us about having children. My in-laws, on the other hand, tell anyone who'll listen that I haven't gotten pregnant in the 4 years we've been married. Even the breakfast stall in the neighborhood knew her daughter-in-law was infertile. If it were her own daughter, would she let her be talked about like that? Even for someone like Xiao Yunyun, they'd probably protect her, right? Father sighed, you're both still young. Some people don't have children until they're in their 40s. And you're only 28, Enin, don't put so much pressure on yourself. To be honest, I wasn't fully on board with your marriage from the start. It's not that I looked down on his family's situation, but they didn't contribute a single penny. Since ancient times, it's been the groom's family who provides the betrothal gifts. We provided a dowry of 2 apartments and a car. And they just moved right into the new home. What family wouldn't jump at the chance for such a bargain of a daughter-in-law? People always say that if a woman asks for nothing when she gets married, she ends up being looked down upon. Because I was cheap. On the other hand, those who demanded a bride price, a house, and a car, out of consideration for their sunk costs, wouldn't dare treat their wives too poorly, even if they had to swallow their pride. And me, I was so love-struck and foolish. I even dragged my parents into my misery. If he treats you well, then it's fine. But no matter what decision you make, your mom and dad will always support you. I thought my parents would be so pleased to see how loving Jian Mingjie and I were. I thought my marriage was perfect. Little did I know my parents had seen right through everything in my life. I leaned into my mother's arms again, sobbing uncontrollably. That afternoon, Jian Mingjie called my father's phone. The moment I answered, I was met with a torrent of furious shouting. Wu Yin, you've got some nerve, haven't you? Slipping away without a word. Do you even know it's family day? Do you even want this family anymore? A house full of elders are waiting for you. Where are your manners? What? Cat got your tongue. Listen to yourself. It's just about accepting Yunyun's child. If you had a child of your own, we wouldn't be asking this. But you don't. Why can't you just accept it? And another thing, how dare you give Auntie Lu and my parents the cold shoulder? Is this how the Wu family raises their daughters? Do you have any respect left for my family or for me? What's with all the racket? Anyone would think I'd committed murder or arson. Jian Mingjie. Are you even listening to yourself? Forcing me to raise someone else's child. If you think I can't have kids, just go find someone who can. I'm not stopping you. Why do you have to be so overbearing and force me to accept this? If I don't agree, he'll make my life a living hell. Why should I dance to his tune? He was about to start yelling again, so I just hung up on him. One more word from him, and I swear I'd have a heart attack. I knew the Jian family must be in an uproar right now. The 3 old folks, plus Jian Mingjie and Xiao Yunyun, were probably cursing me and all my ancestors to hell. The 2 families ganged up to pressure me into giving in. They probably never expected me to react so strongly. It completely caught them off guard. In the past, I was completely obedient to my husband, Jian Mingjie. A few sweet words from him, and I'd agree to anything, since I don't have children of my own. Taking in Xiao Yunyun's child seemed like the natural, obvious thing to do. They managed to cover up Xiao Yunyun's affair with him, smoothly seized my family's assets, and on top of it all, got themselves a lovely pair of children, a loving mother and a filial son, enjoying the blessings of a harmonious family, with wealth, leisure, and both a son and a daughter. Such a perfect scenario, and it all fell apart simply because I didn't agree. What a heartless troublemaker, stirring up discord in the family. I bet that whole room of people is already hatching a new plan. I'm living comfortably at my parents' home, enjoying their care every day and shutting out all the nonsense. Jian Mingjie hasn't reached out to me either. However, I did receive an invitation from an old friend. Sitting across the table was Ning Yi, an alumnus from our university days. He was roommates with Jian Mingjie, and sometimes he'd hang out with us too. Later on, for some reason, we rarely saw him anymore. We only received a message of congratulations from him on our wedding day. May all your wishes come true. Oh. And there was a huge red envelope too, with a 5-figure sum inside. I was thinking, he's not even that close with Jian Mingjie. Why would he spend so much? when I saw him again, I never expected him to be the one to ask me out. You saw it? I asked bluntly. Yeah, at the most renowned postpartum care center in the city. So that's what the fuss is all about. I thought you two were happy. Just 2 weeks ago, I thought I was happy too. That's just how people are. When things are going smoothly, we're all too good at fooling ourselves. We forget how fickle the human heart can be. Is your wife in her postpartum confinement? He snorted, nearly choking on his coffee. That's my sister. I'm not married yet. Why aren't you married? I blurted out. He frowned and rapped his knuckles on the table. Miss Wu Yin, why didn't you go to Tsinghua University? I don't like it. Funny. Neither do I. Suddenly, we looked at each other and smiled. That shared laughter lifted a little of the gloom from my heart. Learning that Jian Mingjie and the others were looking at postpartum care centers didn't stir any emotion in me. I figured they'd pick one and then just be waiting for me to foot the bill. I kept my composure, carrying on each day, eating and sleeping well. I didn't give him a single call for several days in a row. Finally, my mother-in-law couldn't hold back any longer and called my mom. She tried to fish for my stance indirectly, but my mom played dumb and claimed she didn't know a thing. She said she couldn't figure out what I was thinking, that I was always busy, came home late, and they just couldn't catch me. Dear in-law, we know Inin has a bit of a temper. Mingjie has been spoiling her all these years. Can't she just meet him halfway this once? We've never held it against her all these years without a child. Why can't she understand the heartache of us, the parents? Held it against her. What right do you have to hold anything against our Inin? For all you know, the problem could be with your Jian Mingjie. Why don't you mention that? That's impossible. Our Mingjie has already what? My mother-in-law was left speechless. My mom has been bottling up her anger for all these years. Before, she held back because she saw how devoted I was to Jian Mingjie. Now that I've come to my senses, she can finally let it all out. But if Wu Yin shows us elders no respect, are we not even allowed to say anything about it? Auntie Mingjie, in all the years Inin has been married to your son, they bought one house after another. Can you honestly say that's your son's doing? Well, how can you say that? This is considered marital property. Of course, our Mingjie has contributed his share, but you can't just be right about everything. There are plenty of people in society who don't have children. You could go and find someone who can have them. This conversation is over. There's just no point in talking anymore. My mother-in-law hung up the phone quickly. People need their dignity like trees need their bark. But there are just so many who don't know the first thing about saving face. He looks down on me for being infertile, yet he can't bear to part with my money. They want to have their cake and eat it too. Well, I'll make sure they end up with nothing, just as I thought. That damn strategy didn't work. Jian Mingjie came to me on his own. First, he called me and said he'd forgive me if I apologized to his parents, Auntie Lu, and Xiao Yunyun. I was so angry I could only laugh. Does Jian Mingjie still think I'm that silly girl who revolved around him? The first to back down whenever we had a fight. The Wu Yin from the past life was already killed by him. The Wu Yin standing here now is a whole new person, forged in fire. Jian Mingjie, have you lost your mind? Why on earth should I apologize? Your whole family tried to force me to raise someone else's child, and when I refused, you gave me the silent treatment. I already told you, if you resent me for not being able to have children, then we can get a divorce. Who's stopping you? I must have been out of my mind in a past life to have fallen for him so completely, that deadbeat didn't pay a cent for the bride price or a house, just landed himself a free wife with her own assets. And then his whole family emotionally blackmailed me into raising someone else's kid. I spoiled him rotten until he lost all sense of direction. He used my infertility to brainwash me into feeling worthless, so I willingly let him control me completely. What did you say, Wu Yin? I'm giving you a chance here. Don't push your luck, just apologize, and we can put this whole thing behind us. You're insane. I hung up the phone. Finally, some peace and quiet. 2 more days passed, and seeing I wasn't joking, Jian Mingjie couldn't sit still any longer. When quitting time came, he took the initiative to come to my office, holding a bouquet of rose freud. He greeted the young ladies in the office along the way, and the girls covered their mouths. Wow, Director Wu, you're so lucky. Even after all these years of marriage, your husband is still so romantic. Jian Mingjie walked up to my desk. Inin, I'm here to pick you up from work. It was as if the earlier unpleasantness had never happened. I took the bouquet of flowers. They were quite lovely, but somehow, next to him, they suddenly seemed rather cheap. Inin, I've reserved a table at the restaurant, your favorite one. The whole way, he kept stealing glances at my expression. All these years, from dating to marriage, he's been incredibly perceptive. It's one of the reasons he can so easily read my moods and why I've been so devoted to him. Did you want to talk to me about something? No, it's nothing. about that unpleasant scene at my parents' place. Are you still upset with me? No, it's all in the past. I know you want children. All these years, I've been neglecting your feelings. A look of relief washed over his face, and he placed his hand over mine. Eneen, I knew you'd be understanding. After all these years together, do you think I don't know what kind of person you are? Of course he knew. He had me completely figured out, a hopeless romantic through and through. After dinner, he did something completely out of character and offered to take a walk with me by the river. Come to think of it, it had been years since we'd taken a stroll together like this. A few stars twinkled in the distant sky. Thinking of all those years I'd wasted my genuine feelings, it suddenly felt like such a terrible waste. Eneen, Xiao Yunyun is about to give birth. We've picked out a postpartum care center. A 2-month stay is only 200,000 yuan. What do you think? 2 whole months in a postpartum recovery center. That's incredibly extravagant. I wonder who gave them the nerve and the means to do that. 200,000 isn't that much, is it? What's the problem? He swallowed hard and hesitated for a moment. It's not that much, but you know their financial situation. They can't afford a postpartum center, so my mom suggested we cover the cost for now. Sure, but you'll need to sign an IOU first. He was taken aback by how readily I agreed, but caught on in just a second. His face fell. What did you say? What IOU? Of course you need an IOU for a loan. Did you think I'd just hand over the money for free? No, what I mean is, my mom said we should cover it for now. She'll pay us back once she has the money. I let out a cold, scornful laugh. Even scammers know they have to play to your interests and make you think you're getting a good deal before you'll hand over your money. That Jian Mingjia, he just opens his mouth and expects something for nothing. She's a single mother raising 2 kids all by herself. It'll take her forever to save up 200,000 to pay me back. Who is she kidding? Thinking she can afford a postpartum recovery center. Jian Mingjia stared at me as if I were a monster. You, he stammered for a good while, unable to get a coherent word out. Wu Yin, are you even the same Wu Yin I used to know? How can you be so heartless? It's not easy for her as a single mother. I laughed. Just because she's having a hard time, I'm supposed to foot the bill. There are countless people struggling in this world. Am I supposed to pity them all? The audacity of wanting my money. They might as well just try to snatch it from me. Last time at their place, when Xiao Yunyun called me a barren hen, the whole family just sat there and listened. Not a single one of them spoke up for me. Jian Mingjia softened his tone. You know perfectly well how little I make each month. Can't I just borrow it from you? Sure, but let's get an IOU signed first. Regarding the matter of borrowing money, I didn't outright refuse, but I didn't agree either. You can't play your hand too completely, or how else are you going to enjoy the show? Jian Mingjia doesn't dare to boss me around like he used to. If he offends me, I won't spend a single cent, and he's the one who stands to lose. I won't be at his beck and call anymore, putting him first in everything. He's no fool. He can sense the change. I wonder how he went back and discussed it with them. In the end, the IOU was signed, but with the utmost reluctance. The look Xiao Yunyun gave me again was so sharp it could have flayed me alive. If looks could kill, the atmosphere at the dinner table was palpably strange. My in-laws didn't bring up the topic of me adopting a child again, and Aunt Lu hadn't so much as glanced my way since I sat down. Only Jian Mingjia spoke up, his tone cold. Yunyun is due in just over a month. I think we should move in with my parents to make it easier to look after her. He was speaking to me. I nodded and went back to eating my meal in silence. It's only right. After all, it can't be easy for her, going through the pregnancy alone. Everyone was stunned, as if they couldn't quite believe those words had come out of my mouth. After all, the IOU was freshly signed. That much was true. They used to think I was meek, blurting out whatever was on their minds without a second thought for how I might take it. Now that I've shown my claws, they don't dare say a word. People. We're such gluttons for punishment. But everyone's hearts were in their throats again. But you can move back by yourself. I don't need to, right? Why, you should be doing your part to take care of Yunyun too. Jian Mingjia frowned, his tone almost scolding. I met his gaze directly. Mingjia, are you serious? It's not my child. Why should I have to do my part? You, Wu Yin, you're nothing but an ungrateful wretch. With a loud bang, Xiao Yunyun across the table flew into a rage. She slammed the bowl in her hand onto the floor with all her might. You can't stand me, can you? You're just jealous that Mingjia takes care of me. If you're so capable, go have your own kids. What's the point of all this talk? I can carry twins in one go, while you can't even conceive one. You're just a barren hen. Crash, my tableware was swept onto the floor too. You think you're the only one who can throw a tantrum. These days, the better mannered you are, the more people walk all over you. Xiao Yunyun, do you ever brush your teeth? I can smell your bad breath from all the way over here, you wretched woman." She sat there, gasping for breath. Several people rushed over, one offering her water, another patting her chest to soothe her. What a commotion. In my past life, I never confronted her like this, turns out. Putting someone in their place feels this good. Jian Mingjie glared at me. "Wu Yin, Yun Yun is pregnant. How could you provoke her like that? Were you deaf when she was insulting me? Why don't you just go be her husband then?" I stood up and pulled the IOU from my pocket. "Since you clearly don't want the money, let's just forget about this debt." With that, I tore up the IOU, slung my bag over my shoulder, and walked out the door. So Xiao Yunyun's got a lot of nerve, huh? She steals my husband and still expects me to pay for her postpartum care. Two bloodsuckers, and they went for the luxury package at the city's top postpartum care center. If you want my money, at least have the decency to behave. Swearing like that shows a complete lack of class. With that attitude, she still expects me to be her cash cow. I don't know who's more foolish, her or me. I've been a fool once before in this life. Never again. Someone was chasing me from behind. Just as he was about to catch up, I quickly ducked into a taxi parked by the roadside. "Driver, go, Wu Yin, the money, my ass. If you're so obsessed with cash, why don't you go earn it yourself? The whole family bullies your wife, and you want to use her money to support your mistress and kid. You're the absolute worst kind of scumbag." It wasn't long before I heard another appalling secret with my own ears. That day, I came home from work, opened the door, and saw two enormous suitcases. I thought Jian Mingjie was finally moving in, but then I heard voices coming from my master bedroom. "Don't cry, it's all my fault. If I could just earn more, we wouldn't have to put up with her." It was Jian Mingjie's voice. "How is this your fault? She's the one who can't have children, and she doesn't even want mine. Who does she think she is? I told you ages ago to get all her assets transferred into your name. How far have you gotten with that?" Xiao Yunyun spoke with a domineering, commanding tone. My heart sank. I switched on the recorder and pricked up my ears. I've been trying, haven't I? Yun Yun, you know how it is with Wu Yin's family. They're all business people, sharp as tacks. When I suggested selling her premarital apartment to get a bigger one, her parents wouldn't hear of it. You're still saying that. It's because you're useless. What do her parents matter? Doesn't she do everything you say? I put up with this for years. I gave up the person I love most to her. And I've become the dirty little secret, the one you can't love openly. Why should I accept that? What does she have that I don't? Besides a bit of money. Alright, you're right. I know I've let you down, but let's not forget, back then, if you hadn't pointed out that she came from a good family and was naive enough to be taken advantage of, would I have even pursued her? Don't worry. For you and the child, I won't let you stay in this nameless, unrecognized state forever. I'll file for divorce as soon as I get my hands on the assets. I took a step back and covered my mouth. That despicable pair. I thought they got together because I couldn't have children. I never imagined that his pursuit of me was all part of their scheme from the very beginning. In this three-person drama, I was just an NPC. Figures. Hatred churned within me. If it weren't for the need for revenge, I'd storm in there and kill them right now. I told you to pursue her, not to actually fall for her. And you went and married her. Admit it, you just can't let her go, can you? I swear I haven't. She's the one who's obsessed with me. Yun Yun, you know perfectly well that on my salary alone, we could never have afforded that prime location apartment for you and your mom, and your lifestyle. Do you think that could have been sustained without her money? Enough. Those are just excuses. She hasn't gotten pregnant all these years. She hasn't figured out we tampered with things, has she? Tampered with it? I was absolutely thunderstruck. No, in the first couple of years of our marriage, she was focused on her career. Later, she got used to drinking the milk I'd spiked with birth control pills. In the milk. I was struck by lightning, frozen on the spot. It turns out, all those little gestures I mistook for affection, like the glass of milk he brought me every night, were laced with drugs. He never wanted me to have his child. The only reason I got pregnant was because I spilled my milk that one time, and Jian Mingjie never knew. With a hand resting on my belly, I walked out of that suffocating house for good. I wandered the bustling streets, lost in the crowd, with no idea where to go. Recalling my past life, all the pieces in my mind suddenly clicked into place. And everything became clear. They drugged me to make me infertile, then pinned the blame on me and gaslit me into accepting Xiao Yunyun's child. I worked tirelessly to earn money and support their entire family. As for the child, I miscarried from exhaustion. I suspect they found out about that too. Jian Mingjie already has a perfect family with both a son and a daughter. Why on earth would he want a child from a tool like me? So, with the child gone, I had even less to hope for. I had no choice but to resign myself to slaving away for his entire family. My nearly decade-long relationship with Jian Mingjie was built entirely on lies and deceit. I wanted to take a knife to that scumbag and that bitch, but I also felt a profound sorrow for myself. If only I had been more clear-headed in my past life, if I hadn't been so dependent on him or so blindly trusting of his love. How could I have ended up being manipulated to the point of losing my very life? Over the years of my treatment, my cousin, who's the head of gynecology, kept reminding me to watch my diet. She'd ask if I was eating anything that might be counteracting the treatment. She's been in obstetrics and gynecology for years and has seen countless cases and all sorts of messy, dramatic stories. Eneen, you should never intend to harm others, but you must never let your guard down either. Just think, how many times greater is your family's wealth compared to theirs? Have you ever considered that? How did I answer her back then? I told him I believed in him. We were each other's first love. What could be more pure and precious than that? He was only 20 when we met. At that innocent age, what kind of ill intent could he possibly have had? My circumstances were a bit better. His families were a bit worse. I was willing to spend money on him. It was due to my own physical condition. I can't shift the blame onto someone else. See, how considerate I am. Always thinking of him. So what happened? They saw me as an easy mark with deep pockets, and played me for a fool. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was Ning Yi, across the table. He looked utterly astonished. You look terrible. When I saw you sitting by the flower bed, I thought you'd been robbed. A woman in such a state of despair, she must be nursing a broken heart or a shattered dream. If she'd been robbed, she'd be hysterical. I gave a bitter smile. Sorry you had to see that sorry spectacle, yet for the past 10 years, I've turned myself into that very spectacle. Were the two of them ganging up on you? A wave of bitterness washed over me again. Ning Yi's hand, resting on the table, tensed, veins standing out. Even when he was pursuing you, he was entangled with that girl next door. It seems I was the only fool. Why didn't you say something back then? Ning Yi let out a sigh, as if he didn't know how to comfort me. Even if someone had told me back then that Jian Mingjie was unreliable and had a girl with ambiguous ties hanging around him, would I have believed it? I'm not blind, and I have my own judgment. So how did I still end up walking into this mess? You know why I stopped hanging out with him? Why? I was the one who took that photo of you in the library. He stole it and posted it on the campus confession wall. They even got into a fist fight over it. I'm speechless. I've been hit with too many truths today. I can't even process the shock. Jian Mingjie's pursuit of me was a complete charade he and Xia Yunyun orchestrated from the start, just to play with my genuine feelings. Later, when you two got together, I could only watch from afar, but my well wishes on your wedding day were sincere. No wonder he couldn't wait to tell me the moment he saw them booking the postnatal care center that day. I really can't stand the thought of you being deceived any longer. I don't want to keep fooling myself either. Never again. Gently wiped a tear from the corner of the eye. When you get married someday, I'll give you a huge red envelope. It's definitely more than his 5-figure sum. Ning Yi finally got the matter off his chest, and a wave of relief washed over him. That won't be necessary. What's your plan? They're going to pay for it. Of course, I didn't go back that night. I was thinking about what I should do next. Jian Mingjie called the next day. Wu Yin, I need to tell you something. I brought Yunyun to my place. We'll take care of her together from now on. You don't have a problem with that, do you? Ha, act first. Ask for permission later. He's always pulling stunts like this. Those 2 large suitcases actually belonged to Xia Yunyun. He couldn't bear to see his childhood sweetheart suffer. Why would I have any objections? They've been putting on this act for so many years. Must be exhausting, right? No, you won't. Get ready. We're going to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. He was stunned for a moment. What for? Divorce. You. What do you mean, Wu Yin? I hung up immediately. I imagine he was completely stunned. Everything was fine. Why on earth did I, the poor fool, suddenly bring up divorce? Was it because their recent antics had finally gotten on my nerves? No, that can't be it. How could I ever bring myself to leave him when I love him so much? That very day, Jian Mingjie showed up at my parents' house. He was carrying a fruit basket that looked like a re-gifted gift, the kind someone gives you when they have too much to finish themselves. And to think I once believed he was a devoted son, always showing up with armfuls of gifts. Looking back, every single one was just a client gift he passed along to me. He was simply cashing in on a free favor. Mom, Dad. I'm here to take Eneen home. My parents didn't even acknowledge him. They just turned and went straight back to their bedroom. Jian Mingjie had never seen them act this way before. His face instantly darkened. I've endured so much of his cold indifference in his own home, and he can't even handle it once. Wu-een, were you drunk yesterday? What kind of nonsense were you talking? We're going to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. Don't keep me waiting. He blew up, throwing the fruit basket in his hand. Have you lost your mind? Why on earth would you want a divorce when everything was fine? I looked at his utterly hypocritical face. How had I never noticed before that every one of his fake smiles was laced with impatience? To think, all these years, he's shown not an ounce of feeling towards someone who loved him. A man that selfish is terrifying. Anyone who ends up with him is in for a world of hurt. You're so busy preparing for your godsister's childbirth. Do you even remember who your wife is anymore? Yun, she. I'm sick and tired of hearing about how hard it is for her as a single mother. Jian Mingjia, have I been too lenient with you? Have you forgotten your place? Are you really going to be this unreasonable? If you're not at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow, I'll file for divorce in court. The choice is yours. With that, I went back to my room. I didn't open my door until I heard the front door close. I knew he'd gone back, and that his whole family was gathering again to scheme. I didn't go to the Civil Affairs Bureau the next day. Why? Because I knew he wouldn't show up. Right now, his family is surely tallying up all the assets in our names, the stocks, the funds, the bank balances. I wasn't about to sit around and wait. I sent him a video right then and there. Jian Mingjia, you can either wait for me to file a lawsuit or agree to a quick divorce, otherwise, you'll see what happens. He never expected me to have evidence, and as for the video's content, let's just say it was explosive. Ever since my rebirth, I haven't been idle. I simply installed devices in key locations. The evidence I gathered in my own home is more than enough to be submitted in court. It was a rather intimate little story. And the main characters were, of course, him and his childhood sweetheart. Sure enough, Jian Mingjia called me very soon after. Inin, you've got it all wrong. Yun and I had too much to drink that day. Shut up. Do you think I'm blind or just stupid? Jian Mingjia, I have more than just this. Do you want everyone to know who the father of Xiao Yunyun's baby is? He was speechless. Given the circumstances, he had no choice but to go through with the divorce, whether he wanted to or not. The next day was when we had agreed to file for divorce. In the meantime, I rejected any explanations or overtures of peace from the Jian family. His parents came to my home, humbled and desperate. They tried every trick in the book, pleading, making a scene, even threatening self-harm, to convince me to call off the divorce, claiming Jian Mingjia had only been momentarily confused when he got involved with Xiao Yunyun. Deep down, I'm still the one he loves most, after all these years. How could I possibly just let go? My parents called the police right away. It wasn't until the officers took them away for questioning that they finally settled down. That night, on my way home, a car ahead swerved out of control and came barreling toward me. The blinding headlights left me completely disoriented. When I came to, my parents were holding my hands. Inin, they said, the baby is gone, my poor child. The one I so desperately wanted to keep. Perhaps he sensed he wasn't welcome by his father, or perhaps it was my own neglect of my emotional and physical well-being lately. My child chose to leave. My tears streamed down my face. My mother kept wiping my tears away. Inin, my dear, don't cry. You'll have a child of your own one day. Who is it? The culprit, Xiao Yunyun, has been caught. But what can you do to a heavily pregnant woman? She insists it wasn't intentional, claiming she accidentally pressed the accelerator due to feeling unwell. And just like that, my child is gone. My cousin heard the news. Well, it's probably for the best. What good could possibly come from a scumbag's genes? This might not be a bad thing after all. But as a mother, losing the child I'd longed for all these years, it would be a lie to say my heart isn't broken. Ning Yi, acting as my attorney, presented the divorce papers to Jian Mingjia. Yes, he's a lawyer from one of the city's top firms. I really lucked out. To think we'd meet again like this, after all these years as classmates and roommates. After all this time, you still haven't given up on her. Ning Yi sneered coldly. Old classmate, just think about everything you've done over the years. You've been deceiving her from the very start. You don't deserve to be her child's father. So, you two have been carrying on behind my back for a while now. We're not as shameless as you are. Regarding the divorce settlement, there are 4 properties. 2 of them were my dowry from my parents. They were purchased before the marriage, so he basically has no claim to them. The 2 properties we bought after marriage, plus the one from his parents, make a total of 3 that are considered our joint marital assets. There are 2 cars. The bank balance is only a few $100,000. I used the rest to buy insurance a long time ago. When Jian Mingjia found out, he was furious. He said he would sue me for intentionally dissipating marital assets. I swear he must have been raised on stupid pills. Without missing a beat, I produced evidence of his marital infidelity, along with proof that he and Xiao Yunyun were cohabiting as husband and wife in another city. That's not even mentioning him drugging me to cause infertility, or Xiao Yunyun causing me to lose my child, if I were to press charges for intentional harm. Neither of them would get off scot-free. I have both witnesses and physical evidence. If this goes to trial, a bigamy conviction would land him at least a year or two behind bars. It's up to him whether he wants to keep his assets or learn how to operate a sewing machine in prison. Before signing, he insisted on seeing me one last time, seeing the man before me again. All his former vigor and confidence were long gone. Back when he was living off my money, he walked with a swagger. He was tall and decent looking, turning girls' heads wherever he went. Now, his complexion was ashen, his hair looked unwashed for days, and even his jacket was creased. This was so unlike him. Are you happy now? Which part are you referring to? The part where you and Xiao Yunyun conspired to pursue me and scheme for my family fortune, or the part where I've slaved away for your family all these years, only for you to make me infertile? A pained expression appeared on his face, tinged with what seemed like a hint of guilt. Well, that's a new one. I didn't mean for it to be like this. Oh, really, Jian Mingjia? When your parents looked down on me for not being able to have children, you married me with nothing to your name. I gave you and your family my heart and soul, and you and Xiao Yunyun played me for a fool. In the dead of night, when you lie awake, have you ever felt a shred of guilt? He covered his face with his hands. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were pregnant too. Spare me the crocodile tears. How could a simple sorry from him ever be enough to forgive what he did? He drugged my milk and caused me years of immense physical and mental suffering. Besides, it's not even clear he's genuinely remorseful. What he regrets is that his final scheme ended in total failure. I won't ask if he ever loved me. Only a fool would ask such a pointless question, when you know it was all a deception from the start. How could there have ever been love? It's the thought of such a pathetic, worthless kind of love that sends a chill down my spine. Let that despicable pair, him and Xiao Yunyun, stay locked together for good and stop ruining other people's lives. He signed the agreement to leave with nothing, and a month later, on the very day Xiao Yunyun gave birth, we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau and officially got our divorce certificate. Ning Yi then filed another lawsuit, demanding reimbursement for all the money he spent on his mistress, Xiao Yunyun, during their marriage. He thought I couldn't find the evidence and that a divorce would be the end of it, as if, in my past life, I gave him my very life, supported his entire family for years on end, my youth, my efforts, my life. Do they count for nothing? When Xiao Yunyun found out I was suing to get back everything she had, she fainted again. Right after giving birth, I have to say. With the help of the formidable lawyer Ning Yi, handling this divorce case has been twice the result for half the effort, gathering evidence, pulling bank statements, and securing witness testimonies. It all took a considerable amount of time. He went above and beyond what you'd expect from a lawyer just doing a paid job. It felt like he was fully committed to helping me. I was deeply moved, but that's all it was. Just a feeling. My mother-in-law's house wasn't repossessed, and even if it had been, I wouldn't have wanted it. They gave me their life savings to make up the compensation payment. The apartment next door, the one belonging to Xiao Yunyun's mother, was also secretly funded by my ex-husband, Jian Mingjia, to pay me back. They sold their house and moved straight in with my in-laws, turning two households into one. With the addition of the newborn twins, the three-bedroom apartment became absolutely chaotic. It was packed to the rafters. Xiao Yunyun sold off all her designer clothes, jewelry, and handbags, anything she could get rid of. But even after 4 years of marriage and liquidating everything, she still couldn't cover the money she had squandered. Over the 4 years of their marriage, Jian Mingjia spent millions on her. Fortunately, there's no statute of limitations on this. I can wait. If I'm ever in a bad mood, I'll just file for compulsory enforcement. If hers can't be enforced, then we'll go after her husband's. Jian Mingjia is stuck working for me for the rest of his life. By the way, not long after our divorce, they went and got their marriage certificate. Well, they had a child together, so they had to give the kid a proper family. I suppose, after all those years as a devoted couple, they can finally be together out in the open. I really should offer them my congratulations. However, the new mother, just out of her confinement month, looked utterly exhausted and had a bloated figure. On top of that, not having rested properly postpartum, she was constantly at home, fighting bitterly with Jian Mingjia. As for getting married, they merely registered their union. They didn't even hold a wedding banquet, let alone anything else. Xiao Yunyun had developed postpartum depression. When he received my congratulatory text, Jian Mingjia actually called me. I hung up on him immediately. Are you out of your mind? Can't you tell it's sarcasm? I never want to see either of them again in my life. letting them die would be letting them off too easy. I want this love-struck pair to face life without their precious money, how they started with love and affection, then grew to resent each other, ending up in a lifetime of bitter resentment amidst the daily mess, divorce, their twins. Two families merged into one, bound together since childhood. With a bond that deep, getting a divorce is no easy feat. I, for one, am quite happy to watch their family's contented life in modest circumstances. It must be sheer bliss. Just when I thought our paths would never cross again, Jianmingjie suddenly showed up. That day, he stood downstairs from my office. In the past, he would have eagerly come up to flaunt our relationship in front of my employees. Now, seeing his timid and dejected expression, I couldn't even remember how I ever fell for this man. Enin, what's the matter? His eyes suddenly welled up with tears, as if he'd been wronged somehow. My mood instantly soured. My time is limited. If you don't mind, I can call Xiao Yunyun to take you back. The mention of Xiao Yunyun made his face fall. No, Enin, don't hit me. I'll just say a few words and leave. I'm sorry, I was a jerk before. I shouldn't have listened to her and used your feelings. I deeply regret it now, really. Or do you just regret not having the money for a cushy life? Aren't you worried about hurting Xiao Yunyun's feelings by saying that? I don't give a damn what she thinks. She's a selfish, self-serving bitch. I never should have let her control me. This is all my own damn fault. I deserve this. I really do. He was crouched on the ground, head in his hands, sobbing, in front of the luxurious office building. Such a scene was truly an eyesore. I gave his shoulder a pat. Aren't you ashamed? I certainly am. Could you at least act like a man? I thought they were the perfect couple. So why am I their emotional dumping ground? He went on and on, recounting the details of his married life with Xiao Yunyun. She fell into depression during her postpartum confinement, with both sets of grandparents and herself to support. Money was tight, diapers, formula, living expenses, everything cost double with 2 babies. Every single thing required money. Not a single day was peaceful when there was no money. Her parents' pensions weren't much, and they had to go to the hospital from time to time. Raising kids isn't just expensive, it's utterly exhausting for the adults too. Xiao Yunyun berated him for being useless, saying that as a man, he earned so little. She complained about how other husbands made hundreds of thousands or even millions a year, and why he never thought to stash away some private savings during their marriage. And then there were those twins, crying and whining every day, making life a living hell. I used to think I was so happy, but now I realize it was all because of you. Enin, why was I such an idiot, throwing away a good life and ruining everything? Alright, so he has no one else to vent to and comes to dump his emotional baggage on me. That's just great. I turned to leave, not wanting to see him for another second. Enin, please don't go. Do you despise me now? We were so good together before. You loved me so much. Can you really not forgive me? I can divorce her. I'll even give up the child. Can't we just start over? Just the two of us. I looked at him as if he were a fool. Jianmingjie, you disgust me. Ningyi was walking straight towards me. What's he doing here? Is he trying to bother you again? Of course, I used to be his biggest fool of a wife, utterly devoted, supporting his whole family and even his mistress's family. Where in the world could he ever find another wife like me? The moment he hits rock bottom, he remembers his poor ex-wife, me, a few crocodile tears, and I'd probably be so overcome with pity I'd send him money. After all, a man's single tear is a performance designed to break your heart. In my past life, that fool Wuyin might have fallen for it. Love makes you vulnerable. It's better to be free of it. Enin, no one else in this world would want you but me. Don't think he genuinely likes you. It's just resentment. From behind him came Jianmingjie's voice. Ningyi gritted his teeth. Wait for me. I'm going to beat the crap out of him. Don't. You're a legal professional. He's desperate for money right now. He held himself back, again and again. Jianmingjie, take a good look at yourself. What do you have to compete with me? Do you own a house or a car? What makes you think Wuyin should choose you? Just that silver tongue of yours. The breeze from the river felt soothing against my face. My heart felt a matching peace and serenity. I was truly content with my life as it was. Gone were the anxieties of the past, the constant fretting over gains and losses, and the unsettling feeling of grasping at something just out of reach. Ningyi walked the whole way, pressing for an answer the entire time. Haven't you made up your mind yet? Can't you just give me a straight answer? I was once a fool for love, and gave my heart to the wrong person. In this life, who can guarantee they won't meet the wrong person? I'm remarried, and I can't have children. I'm single and not getting any younger. People say there must be something wrong with me. So, is there something wrong? Or isn't there? He leaned in close to my ear. Why don't you find out for yourself? Get lost. I remember after the accident, Xiao Yunyun came to see me alone. She said she'd heard about me from a classmate. The classmate said I was good-looking, came from a wealthy family with several companies, and was the typical rich, beautiful, and only daughter type. Jian Mingjie happened to attend the same school as me, but both our families were just ordinary. Even if you land a good job, it won't change your fate, so I egged Jian Mingjie on, figuring we might as well go for broke and try to turn a bicycle into a motorcycle. As it happened, Ningyi had feelings for me. But he kept them bottled up and never dared to confess. After finding out, Jian Mingjie took advantage of his inattention and stole the photo he had of me. He then used it to successfully woo me. So, in terms of fate, it was clearly Ningyi who liked me first, but someone with an agenda took advantage of the situation and made us miss our chance. Wu Yin, we've already wasted so many years. Why are you still hesitating? Because I'm afraid, if I believe in love again, I'll just end up losing everything. Women always get hurt so easily in matters of the heart. I've tried it before, it hurts too much. I swear on my life, if I break this promise, may I meet a terrible end. I pulled his hand down. Don't say such awful things, knock on wood, you care about me. He squeezed my hand tightly in return. I don't want innocent people to suffer because of this, Wu Yin. Please don't be like this. I'll help you let your guard down, even if it's just for your own sake. Will you give it a try? Ningyi and I got married. Yes, it's true. I agreed to give it a try with him. At first, we weren't going to make it official, but later, I was genuinely moved by his sincerity. He transferred all of his premarital assets into my name, 3 apartments, 2 cars, and all his savings. With a note specifying it was a voluntary gift, he told me. I've been waiting for this moment for years. Wu Yin, money can be earned, but a soulmate is a rare find. This was something I never experienced with my ex-husband. With Jian Mingjie, all he did was take, while I gave unconditionally until I was battered, bruised, and nearly lost my life. With Ningyi, he's the one who gives unconditionally, and I'm the one who receives. If this doesn't prove his sincerity, then I must just be too difficult to please. So, we went and got our marriage license. All our family and friends came to bless us. And within a year of our marriage, I was happily expecting our baby. My daughter with Ningyi is absolutely adorable, with cute little dimples on her cheeks. She is the apple of our eye. Ningyi often gazes at her sweet little face, lost in thought. I wonder which lucky boy will win her heart someday. I told him he was worrying too far ahead, but he said that's just how fathers of daughters are. Oh, and I ran into my ex-husband, Jian Mingjie. And his family. Xia Yunyun had gained weight after childbirth, with stains on her dark dress. She never got her old figure back, and the acne scars on her face were shocking. She was holding one child in her arms and leading another by the hand. Jian Mingjie walked ahead, while she trailed behind, grumbling and complaining, a classic picture of a middle-aged woman weighed down by family and children. Her shouting drew the attention of many passers-by on the street. My ex-husband caught a glimpse of me by chance and quickly lowered his head. Ningyi, and I opened the Bentley's door. He was holding our daughter and even brought the bubble tea to my lips. This stood in stark contrast to how he only looked after himself, leaving Xia Yunyun to handle both children alone. What are you staring at? Don't think I don't know your sneaking glances at your ex-wife. A guy like you, she's not interested. She's into handsome guys with luxury cars. Jian Mingjie. You're never going to amount to anything. I listened to Xia Yunyun's scolding. Jian Mingjie seemed not to hear it, his expression vacant, lost in who knows what thoughts. Perhaps he's quite content with his life as it is. After all, he got exactly what he asked for. I thought I was done with my ex-husband and his family for good. Little did I know, years later, a pair of twins showed up at my door and called me Mom right away. I was completely stunned. The violent crash jolted me awake with searing pain, and in that moment, I realized those 2 ungrateful wretches had been reborn as well. Mom, are you abandoning me and my sister? You're our mother. You can't just leave us. That's right, Mom. How could you become someone else's mother? We want to live in a big house, ride in a fancy car, and eat at fancy restaurants. Mom, take us with you. Looking at the 2 children before me, I felt nothing but a creeping dread. Memories from my past life came flooding back into my mind. Just like their parents, they are selfish, cold, and heartless. No matter how much you give them, they take it for granted. The moment you don't bend to their will, they turn on you, slander you, gang up with the whole family against you, and lay a guilt trip on you. In my past life, I suffered many hidden losses from these 2 ungrateful wretches. To my face, they called me Mom, but behind my back, they conspired with their birth parents, Jian Mingjie and Xia Yunyun, on how to scheme against me. They had me completely figured out, all because they saw I was old and had no one else to rely on but them. Who are you? I don't know you. I tried to send them away. Those two ungrateful wretches suddenly dropped to their knees and clung to my legs, one on each side, right there on the street. This scene could easily make people think I was a heartless mother or a child trafficker. Mom, please take us home, we want to go home with you. Please don't leave us behind, Mom. People were coming and going, and some stopped to look in our direction. A group of kind-hearted elderly women and mothers gathered around. What's going on? The child is crying like this. How can a mother be so heartless? Exactly, young people these days, you can't raise children like that. Look how adorable these two kids are. You'd better get them home. Once I'm home, I won't be able to shake them off. These two little brats are banking on me being too well-mannered to make a scene. They know I'll just swallow my pride and let it go to keep the peace. That's exactly how I was in my past life. Even when I suffered the gravest injustice, I shouldered it all myself, letting their whole family take advantage of me. Get up, do you hear me? We won't get up. You are our mother. You can't just disown us. Helpless. I picked up my phone and dialed the police. I didn't want to argue with those two ungrateful wretches. Having died by their hands in my past life, the fear and helplessness in my heart made me want to avoid facing them. The police took the two children away for questioning. Even though they insisted I was their mother, I showed them my ID. It was quickly established that I had absolutely no connection to those twins. When Ningi came to pick me up, he looked completely shocked. What's going on? Whose kids are these? Jianmingjia's. It's been years since the divorce. For those two kids to show up now wanting to recognize their mother is utterly bizarre. I can't possibly tell anyone that the two of us, along with those ungrateful wretches, have been reborn. No one would believe a story like that. Only the three of us know the truth deep down, what they're really after. Even when facing these two kids, I can't let my guard down. And I absolutely cannot admit that I've been reborn too, just as I expected. Their attempt to extort me failed, and now they're up to their old tricks again. First, my ex-father-in-law and Aunt Lu, Xiao Yunyun's mother, started a live stream online, claiming that I schemed to leave my ex-husband Jian Mingjie with nothing when we divorced. They said it led to his family falling apart, leaving the two children without enough food or proper clothing. A once well-off family was stripped of everything through such calculated schemes. Oh, and I forgot to mention, my ex-mother-in-law was pushed over by the kids and suffered a stroke. She's been bedridden for years now. As for my former father-in-law, ever since our two families merged into one, he's been carrying on with Xiao Yunyun's mother, Auntie Lu. Their late-life romance is passionate and unrestrained, completely ignoring the wife lying paralyzed in bed. They often flaunt their affection right in front of her, leaving my former mother-in-law furious but utterly powerless to stop them. As for my ex-husband and Xiao Yunyun, they're constantly at each other's throats every day, with their fights escalating from verbal abuse to physical violence. They were both hurling accusations of incompetence at each other. Xiao Yunyun went a step further, berating him for not even being able to hold on to a foolish woman like me, saying he deserved to be poor for the rest of his life, unable to support a wife and children. After graduating, Xiao Yunyun never held down a proper job herself, relying entirely on Jian Mingjie to support her. After the divorce, she left with nothing and now has to raise two children on her own. You can imagine how tough that life must be, overwhelmed by the constant strife. Jian Mingjie left to work in another city, sending a bit of money back home each month. Now, those two ungrateful wretches have been reborn, and they're plotting their revenge against me once again. Just as expected, the moment the live stream started, the two children faced the camera and began to cry pitifully. My sister and I go to the market with our grandparents every day to pick up the rotten vegetable leaves that others throw away. When we get sick, we have no money to see a doctor. It's been so long since we've had any meat. There are 7 of us living in this tiny house. My sister and I don't even have our own desks. We really wish we had a proper place to do our homework. Wah, Auntie Wu, we know you're watching. Please, have a heart, give back what rightfully belongs to our father. As she spoke, she even brought her paralyzed former mother-in-law in front of the camera. The elderly woman's face was contorted, her mouth and eyes askew, as she mumbled and babbled incoherently. Someone on the screen asked, "What about your parents? Don't they have jobs?" Exactly, why are you asking your ex-wife for money? Can't you support your own child? My dad works in another city, toiling from dawn till dusk, but he still can't support our whole family. My mom is in poor health and is currently recuperating. Our family is really struggling. My grandparents' pensions aren't even enough to cover their monthly medicine, and my brother and I have to scrimp and save every single day. The young girl spoke with tears in her voice, her words incredibly moving. Oh dear, that's truly pitiful. A single man having to support a family of 7, no one could bear that burden. This world will never run short of people overflowing with sympathy. People always instinctively sympathize with the plight of the weak and the impoverished, especially with the two kids standing there and a paralyzed elderly person making an appearance. You have to admit, they know how to play the algorithm. Netizens were quick to donate money, while also taking the opportunity to criticize me, the heartless ex-wife. I took every last penny of our marital assets in the divorce, leaving my ex-husband with nothing. How is he supposed to support the kids, with nowhere else to vent? They took out all their frustration on me. The Two Kids campaign was a great success, earning them encouragement and praise from netizens. Busybodies even dug up the names of my company and Ningyi's workplace, and then everyone piled on. Both Ningyi's and my work were affected, and our company's stock price and reputation took a hit. For every person online who sympathizes with their family's tragic fate, there's another cursing us out. Even our parents have been dragged into this mess. Honey, are you sure we shouldn't intervene? Maybe we should go abroad and lay low for a while. Ningyi was getting restless. No, it's not the right time yet. Did they really think I wouldn't figure out this was all orchestrated by those two ungrateful brats and Xiao Yunyun? Those two kids are just like her, always playing the puppet master from the shadows. Back when Jian Mingjie was pursuing me, it was Xiao Yunyun who put him up to it. Now, they're making money off the online outrage while taking their frustrations out on me. The netizens don't care about the truth anyway. They're just here for the drama. As long as they're not the ones who end up paying the price. When Xiao Yunyun called me, I knew my chance had come. Wu Yin, surprised. After all these years, we still have a shot at turning things around. I dare you to step outside right now. What are you getting at? Look, I'm not asking for much. Wire 5 million to my account, and I'll delete the video. What if I say no? We'll see about that. Do you have any idea how much damage I can do with my two kids and my bedridden mother-in-law? The online trolls will be on our side. They won't care that it was our affair that caused your divorce in the first place. In short, you wire the money, and this ends here. Otherwise, I'll ruin your reputation. I don't understand, but I know about recording. I never intended to harm anyone. But if someone deliberately comes after me, I'm not someone to be pushed around. I posted everything online. The evidence from my divorce, the court's judgment, and even the recording with Xiao Yunyun. This set off a firestorm of public opinion all over again. The public sentiment did a complete 180. The same people who were cursing us before are now on our side. Unbelievable. She actually has the nerve to ask for money. They'd been divorced for 8 years. She cheated, got pregnant, and had a child while still married, caused deliberate harm, and now she's trying to extort her ex-wife. What kind of person does that? TSK. The sheer audacity. You really do see all kinds, even using her own child as a tool to squeeze out money. The full force of public opinion turned against them. The donations were clawed back, and even though Xiao Yunyun and the others deleted their accounts, it couldn't stop the torrent of online abuse. People despise nothing more than homewreckers like her. Xiao Yunyun's behavior was utterly shameless. Not only did she play the victim, but she also egged the kids on to cause trouble. My ex-husband and his family became public enemies, despised by everyone. Years later, those ungrateful wretches, having lost their cash cow, me, not only failed to turn their lives around but ended up right back on their old, destructive paths. Their son was into every vice imaginable, drinking, whoring, gambling, racking up debts everywhere. He got locked up for years after a brawl turned deadly. Their daughter made a habit of being the other woman and got her leg broken in a public beating by a scorned wife. The last time I saw Jian Mingjie, he was hunched over, shuffling slowly down the old street as the sun set. It was a rather desolate scene. The end.